wait in anticipation.
There we go.
Right. Slot now.
Good. Well, welcome everybody here this morning, and we'll call the meeting to order at 10:09. Is there any additions or deletions for the agenda?
We did add one RFD this morning, so if you've accessed through iCompass, you'll have the most current version. And if not, we do have some print copies.
That's the 6.11.
Yes.
Okay. So it is on the most current agenda. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So I'd move to accept or adopt the agenda as amended. Or would we say that's as
Yep.
presented?
As presented.
Yeah, okay.
All in favor? It's carried. There's nobody on Teams, right?
There's not. No.
Okay, the minutes. Everyone has looked through the minutes. Is there anything that stood out, or if not, could we have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented? Okay, Faye. All in favor? Good. I think what we should do then is we should just go right to 4.2. Would that work?
You're the chair. So
If
yes, we
that's
could.
all right, because I see that
Yes.
we have
Ms.
our
Doherty is here.
Ms. Doherty is here. So we will give you the floor.
Presentation. I'll hand these out in the meantime.
Thank you.
Some extras, can we leave these as well as like that?
Thank you.
Report.
West Central's been around for a long time.
Few years.
I think Walter Purchase actually had some quite a bit to do with this, developing some of this magazine. He sits on the Barhead County Board.
Yeah, so the magazine I just handed out this is our first edition. We're gonna try and do our magazines quarterly, and just a way to kind of share information as well as some really good resources for all of our producers in the area. We're looking to kind of target articles that focus around kind of the four main pillars on which we really operate around, which is livestock, more or less on beef, soils, conservation, and forages. So we kind of want to have those articles kind of in every single magazine, but a little more tailored, towards the season and what you're dealing with. So beef, coming in the spring, we might talk a little bit more about grazing, some things you look out in the summer, like pink eye, that kind of stuff. Soils, maybe it's around testing them, what you want to look for in terms of fertilizers or fertilizer alternatives, etc. So just different items like that are a little more applicable for each season that we go through. So a new initiative for us. We're more or less dropping them around our counties. I actually should have brought you more copies as a way for producers to kind of pick those up. So do you want to click or go through for me? Yeah, okay. So the next one, please. So as mentioned, we've been around for a while, since '78. So quite a while. I think Grows maybe got a year or two on us. But since '78, we've really aimed to serve producers, really focused around that livestock and forage, which is kind of our strength for the area, dealing with those gray wooded type soils that are clay based, not super heavy on the crops. It's just not prevalent really in our area of coverage. that's where grow really kind of pairs nicely with us, is there a bit more of that transition into to crops. We have a board that makes, that are all volunteers, so all producers from the area. We try and get pretty widespread representation, so we've got board members down in Brazeau, over in Leduc County. We actually have quite a few in the Barrhead region, and try and have a diverse amount of skill set on it, just so we have a well-rounded board to kind of provide some leadership. Perfect, thank you. So we try and respond to producers' need, and try and be somewhat proactive, but usually it's fairly reactive because things change really quick, so we try and react to those. Drought being the main thing. So one thing our board was really on for the extension was, okay, I think we're gonna get hit with a second year of drought. What can we get to our producers? So we put together workshops, tried to spread it out. So we had one in Barrhead, one down in Brazeau. Brought in scientific speakers, we brought in industry speakers, and we brought in producers as well, to all kind of tell stories of, you know, how they were resilient to drought, what things to think about when dealing and going into drought, as a way to kind of really provide that support and resource for our producers. So we really try and engage with active participation. We've been pretty quiet the last few years. We did do an office move. We're now in Sangudo. COVID took a pretty drastic hit on us, you know, extension being one of our main things. We didn't get out for like 2 years. So now we're really wanting to get back out there, get those in-person workshops, one-on-one support, engaging with our community, like 4-H clubs, that kind of thing as well. We really try and be that resource. We're not really here to be recommending things, but we're providing the resources and connecting the producers to those specialists so that they can get the information they need. We're a pretty small team. There's 3 of us full-time. So it's pretty hard to be specialists on everything that a producer might come into. So one program that actually many people don't really know of is Specialist on Call. And you guys call, or the producer can call us with their issues, and we have 5 specialists on call, and we connect them with them, and it's a free charge. Like there is no charge for it. This is to kind of help with how that kind of gap with the government losing all of its ag department specialists, trying to fill that void. So we have a grant for that, and it covers all of the costs for that consultation. So if you guys do have producers, you know, that have these, you know, questions that you guys aren't able to answer, we're not able to answer, we're able to connect them to those kinds of specialists. We work on delivering high quality, unbiased research to our members and partners. We've got quite a few different projects going on, whether it's variety trials, we're doing some DNA work and sire progeny in beef herds. We're doing some rancher researcher type work where we're getting technology out to the producers. And then we're working on quite a bit of soils type projects as well. And I'll touch on those in a minute. And then collaborating with specialists in the ag industry, kind of like that specialist on call, other areas, you know, like grow or any of the other ones really in the area, other educational institutions, government, you name it. We're really trying to connect all of those and kind of be that resource. And then also soliciting funding and in-kind support to offset expenses in a cost-efficient manner, trying to minimize cost to producers. So the more we can fundraise on our end, the more we're able to support farmers and not have to charge for events, that kind of thing. So in 2021, we had quite a few projects go in. So we had our perennial forage trials in Wildwood. So this is just a bunch of different perennials, perennial mixes that were put in 2020. And then we've been harvesting and measuring those for 3 years. We'll be wrapping up this project this year and kind of doing a final report on that. Regional silage trials, we're doing those at the Lac St. Anne plots, which are just right by St. Gudo, right by our shop. And that's looking at a whole bunch of different silage types, barley, triticale, we're doing alternatives, millet, a whole bunch of different things. Also in its 3rd year of the project, so we'll be wrapping that up this year, and it looks like we'll probably end up continuing that project on with a new grant. Hemp variety trials, we do those down by the Brazo area. That'll be, I think we're in our 5th year of doing those, and it's a combination of grain as well as fiber hemp varieties. And so just looking at how they respond to, you know, our soils, our environment, that kind of thing. The DNA sire progeny links in commercial herds, that's just looking at essentially a commercial cow-calf herd. You throw out multiple bulls, really trying to identify which bulls are producing which calves, and then doing some work on summarizing that to help the producer make better informed choices. So that wraps up this year. Rancher researcher, we're working with 2 producers to bring technology to them. And what we're actually doing is we're developing a new, essentially cattle tracking application that's web-based, but what's different from any of the ones on the market is we're really focusing on the reporting end. So they're actually able to pull information and make really good decisions, you know, whether they're needing to call, what they want to keep, and just really get a good in-depth look of what their herd is telling them. Most apps are really good at collecting the data, just not giving you anything really out of it without having to do quite a bit of work. Soil moisture, we've got 4 different soil moisture probes all around our area, and so what we're looking at is I think there's 6 different depths on those, and essentially that's linked up with John Deere's system, and so it's an online application. They can go on and monitor it, see how the soil has changed and how the moisture is changing at the different depths, so they can make some decisions when, you know, it comes time to applying fertilizer, or they're spraying, or maybe it's grazing and then wanting to plant. And so just giving them more tools to use essentially. This again is last year for that project. Soil revitalization, we're doing that just south of Mayerthorpe, and that's looking at 5 different essentially cover crop mixes that you can graze off with commercial herds. So we're doing that in collaboration with a producer, and it also actually has one of our soil moisture probes on it. So just looking at how those cover crops also can kind of retain moisture and stuff at different levels, or how it affects the moisture. Soil benchmark and verification. So benchmark was kind of the initial project, and verification is going to be carrying it out. And it's essentially doing benchmark sampling at multiple producers' lands all across our region. And we send these to the Cara Soil Health Lab. And Dr. Yamili, she looks at those, and she's really looking at the bacterial, the fungal, the microbial kind of aspect to it, and trying to see, you know, how practices that these producers are doing change those properties in the soil. And so we do an initial one, which is the benchmark, and then we'll do one a few years later through the verification project at the same location. Stewardship Alliance for Conservation Agriculture, aka SACA, that's in partnership with you guys as well as Yellowhead County. So we've been pretty quiet on that front for a few years again, but we're really trying to get right back in it. Lots of stuff planned. I know Pond Days is coming up, and a few other projects, and really trying to get that ramped up and going. Environmental farm plans, that kind of thing. Regen Ag KTT. So that's knowledge transfer. So that's really just trying to bring extension and resources out to producers, focusing on regenerative agriculture. So a lot of our extension events, speakers, pasture walks, that kind of thing all fall under that project or a portion of. And then Living Labs Phase 1, so this is a federal initiative. There's several applications sent in, even just in our province, but across the country. We have not heard back on the funding yet, but it'd be a 5-year program, provincial-wide, where we're looking at carbon sequestration, how it's stored, and looking to do it from the ground up. So we're looking at the producer, what are they doing, and then measuring it to inform like how carbon is being sequestered in different farming practices. So we're really hopeful for that project, and hope it comes through. Next, please. There we go. So just some photos. We got soil samples in the left side there. That's our benchmark project. The DNA sire progeny, that's up in the top. They just essentially punch out a hole in the calf's ear to get the DNA. Silage trials, hemp trials, and then this is our soil moisture sensor there, which also has like weather stations, so wind, temperature, precipitation, all those different things. this was our staff last year. So myself, Jessica Rogerson, or Watson, she just changed her name, same person. She's been with West Central on and off since 2016. Melissa Howard was with us for the operations and research side, and then our summer students, Savannah and April. That was our board. We did have quite a bit of change this year again. It's about half and half. We are still kind of playing catch up with COVID, and AGM really wasn't held for a few years, so we've been trying to kind of clean up the board rotation cycle a little bit. So our returning members are Rod Nickel as our president, Shorty Fensky, he's out in Leduc, vice president, Jay Hagel, he's Lac St. Anne, Murray is Barhead, Dwayne is down by Brazeau, and our new members, Yvonne is Lac St. Anne, Courtney O'Keefe, she's with Blue Rock Nutrition as an associate member down in Innisfail. Colleen Stein and Barhead, Jessica Stambulik, she's out of Lac St. Anne as our kind of ASB person, and then Ian Kidd, Yellowhead. So staff, myself, we have a temporary research coordinator running our operations for the summer this year, Scott Todd. Next please. And then Jessica Rogerson will be going on maternity leave. So she's got probably not even, maybe a month, and then we'll be transitioning to Kennedy. She's been with us for about 3-4 months now, kind of taking over Jess's role and really helping in the transition. So our membership base as of last year, quite a few out of Yellowhead, Lac St. Anne, Barhead. Woodlands is a small percentage. It is something I'm actively wanting to work on, is increasing our membership. We kind of did go dormant for quite a while, so actively wanting to try and get back out there. So yeah, about 3/4 of our members, cow-calf producers. 20 of those members do backgrounding or run a feedlot. Another 20 in other livestock. Over 90% produce hay, and about 76 are doing pastures. 40% doing silage, and then about 1/4 of them do either bale grazing, swath grazing, or corn grazing. Almost half raise livestock and feed, and then about 40% livestock, feed, and crops, and then very few that just do feed and crops or feed. So,
How are members recruited? Like, how would you become a member?
so typically it's just been like you come to our events and you can buy a membership or you can join online. So there haven't really been any big pushes for like getting memberships out there. One thing I wanted to ask through the county, if you guys are doing a mail out, would there be a potential we could put in a 1-page form that has who we are and a membership form on the back, just as a way to get back out there. If there's any suggestions as well, trying to figure out what the best method is. Yeah.
Would a booth at or a presence at the Hamlet Hoedown, would that help?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, would not be a bad idea.
Absolutely. When is that?
August 19th and 20th.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. I will grab some information on that. Yeah. No, we're trying to get out to a few of those types of events. We're going to be emceeing like the big 4-H event down in Mayerthorpe here at the beginning of June, I believe it is. So trying to get out to more of those community events and just get out. Yeah, I think that's been our struggle the last little while. So.
And Faye, on the other side, like, it's a little late. There's the trade fair, and that's hosted in Whitecourt. Do you think that would provide visibility? Some.
Yeah.
Is there a better venue?
I think that's pretty good, and that was actually one that came to mind.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah,
And what was that?
it's the
The Whitecourt
trade
Trade
fair.
Fair.
Wait.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's through the Whitecourt and District Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
So if you just search them up online, you'd be able to.
Okay.
I think they still have booths available, and their event's coming up pretty quick.
Okay, I'll check that when I get back to the office.
I believe it's at the end of May. Maybe
Okay.
that used to always be Mother's Day weekend,
Yeah.
but they bumped it a couple weeks. So.
Okay.
So that being said, if you are not able to get a booth, we could put some of your information at the Woodlands County booth.
Okay, that would be
Your
wonderful.
2-pager kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's an opportunity as well.
Would there
Wonderful.
be an opportunity for somebody from the organization to come and attend in the booth?
We can chat with Bert and see.
Sure.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, wonderful, yeah, no,
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank
Look,
you.
a question for you as well. Do you have any bison producers, as members?
We don't currently have many as actual members. I know a few have kind of come to a few past events,
Yep.
but none that I recall offhand on the membership list. Yeah.
Because that would be an interesting research,
Yes.
because they're quite different from cattle.
Yeah, very, very different. Yeah. So yeah, we're kind of with all those projects I went through, almost all of them are over at the end of this year, and we're going into kind of a new project. Yeah, trying to figure out, like new projects and new grants and new program cycle. So yeah, definitely one that's kind of been on the, bit of a back burner. We haven't had a lot of people asking about it or funding being available, but that being said,
Now, it's a relatively small industry, and
Yeah.
I think that, the bison producers of Alberta are fairly stagnant in what they're doing right now.
Okay.
And I think it would be kind of interesting to start, getting
yeah,
because the industry doesn't grow unless it gets a bunch of research work and interest in it, so.
100%. It's, they're a realm I'm not super familiar with, which doesn't always help because I don't know the issues, but yeah, I'd definitely be interested in reaching out to them. Do you have a contact?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I raise bisons.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, if I can kind of get me in contact with someone there I could speak with, and
Yeah, I think I'll probably connect with you
Okay.
later and,
Please do,
and
yeah.
see whether we can, make some of those connections. Because
absolutely.
there's for sure 2 or 3 producers in this area.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and I know there's a
one
handful.
on this side and then across the river.
I think it's over here now.
Oh, it is over here now too.
Yep.
Darren's moved over here.
Yep.
Okay, so there you
Yeah,
go.
he's up. Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few in our area too. Like I'm down by Wildwood, so
Oh, yeah.
I think there's 2 or 3 right by us, and then as you drive out there,
We've got one in the main somewhere, too.
Yeah,
Backwoods Buffalo.
backwoods.
Mhm.
And then there's Alberta bison on,
Yeah.
that's Neil. So, yeah,
There's
it'd
definitely a
be
few
interesting
around.
because, was one of the, when I was on the Alberta Bison Commission, one of the I guess, goals was to have, so many animals north of Highway 16
Oh, okay.
in the marginal grazing areas, because that's kind of where they do
ideal.
well.
Yeah,
So,
very cool.
so it would be something, it would be really good research to see,
Yeah.
how to do and how to grow that industry.
No, and that's a very good point because it's a very like for us would be very applicable for our region. So, no, please do. I'd
Okay.
like to chat further on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next one, please. So rolling into 2022 projects, as I mentioned, we're pretty well wrapping up everything this year. We've got a few things we're continuing, such as SACA, our soil verification and our regenerative ag, KTT, as well as our extension. Next one. We are working on a few other projects as well to kind of queue up. Living Labs, if it does get approved, which literally should be any day now, will definitely be a big project for us. We're wanting to continue on with hemp projects. We're actually putting in another 2 smaller projects this year, silage focused one in our Sangudo plots, and then we're actually going to do the remainder of our Wildwood plots all into hemp, about 18 acres, just to see how a bit of a larger scale crop would do, especially in that region. And then we partnered with Canadian Rockies Hemp, who will come do all the harvesting and everything for us, and we can do some extension around that. And then we're also looking at doing a little bit more on the technology side. So my background's actually in GIS and remote sensing. So I'm wanting to bring a little bit of that into agriculture. One of the projects is using the data from the soil moisture program and then using remote sensing to actually do a data set of what the soil moisture conditions are based on satellite imagery. So we put in an application for funding for that, and we've done another one for corn interplanting at 60-inch spacing. So we have 2 producers in Barhead that are wanting to try that, and so essentially have 2 rows of corn 12 inches apart, and then 60 inches apart for the next set of 2, and then in between we'd be intercropping it with a legume. We're thinking of doing a couple different blends. One would just maybe be straight hairy vetch, one would be, 2 things, one would maybe be a full out cocktail mixture, and just kind of seeing how the corn reacts to that, what the yield comes out of the corn. And then we're also doing, one field is being harvested for silage, the other field is actually going to be used for grazing off, and just seeing how the nutrition requirements work with that as well. So really hopeful that one goes through, because I think it'll be fun. Some of our sponsors, so we've got 6 different counties we work with, as well as the CAP program. We're working with colleges and universities as well as industry for our seed. There's 12 of us research associations across the province, and we usually all partner in varying different ways. Most of the projects, there's 9 or 10 of us all involved across the province, such as our regional silage and perennial silage programs. So challenges we're currently facing is funding is a big one. All of our grants that we're getting for our projects are a 50-50 match. We have to match it with cash and in-kind donations, which makes it challenging. Our base grant hasn't changed in about 20 years. So right now we're in a process with RDAR, who's the new funding body. The Alberta government moved most of its funding out to them to fund projects. So we are working with them to try and come to a bit of an agreement on funding and trying to increase that capacity for us, because it does have a trickle effect such as staff retention. You kind of get stuck in survival mode, just trying to do what you can. You're not able to actually grow and improve things. And then, you're kind of stuck with inefficiencies. For us, our biggest challenge is equipment. We run a lot of really old equipment, and we're not able to use any of our grant money to buy new equipment. So we have to raise that money ourselves.
What equipment would you have?
So we have a small plot seeder from about the 80s. It's about the width of this table, and essentially you ride on the back of it, and we pre-measure all of our seeds. So it's got a slot where you can actually pour the seed in, so we're only doing those little chunks of plots. Small garden tractor, spraying equipment, tillage equipment, mowing equipment, kind of all that maintenance stuff. If we are wanting to get into a little bit larger scale, we'd need a different seeder. And right now our seeder really doesn't work for doing like a no-till application. And so that's definitely something we'd like to maybe work a little more towards, is doing some more of that no-till direct seeding. So those are, I'd say capital is probably our biggest challenge that we face right now. Yeah.
Are you able to get in-kind donations from generous producers?
Producers, like land. Some of them are also kicking in and helping us on some of our large-scale projects. Some of the counties, depending on, so like Lac St. Anne is helping us with our plots, to do a pre-burn because it's full of canola. And so we do get quite a bit of help that way. Plot land we get donated. And then, speakers, we get a lot of industry that does help in that way as well. So, yeah.
Thanks.
So some of our goals we have, I've only been there for about a year, but I've got some hefty goals. But we really want to bring relevant research. And so coming and meeting, here today is something I want to try and make regular, at least on an annual basis at the bare minimum. And, to learn, what you guys are, where the issues are, what you guys are hearing from your producers, where would be some interest, such as the bison, that kind of thing. Bringing in innovation and technology, trying to respond to those local needs, essentially really just building community, trying to retain expertise at the regional level, I think is probably the biggest challenge we're faced with right now. we lost Alberta Ag, and everyone that was at Alberta Ag, those are the exports. They're not getting young. And so there's not a ton of support out there to really grow the next crop of those. And to try and retain people that do have that expertise is usually outside of pretty well all of our budgets. So that one is a big one, and we've been bringing that one up with the Alberta government and ARDAR as part of our funding negotiations. Maintaining appropriate equipment to be able to do what we need to do, so having some sort of capital investment. Trying to align with provincial priorities and market development. We're kind of wanting to get involved with the hemp because that is a potential to be a pretty big player in the market. So, and then essentially enhancing the value of investment into basic agriculture research by trying to bridge that gap from the research being done at college and university level and bringing it down to the producer in a usable form. So next, please. And so what could we do? We get to hire and retain those really talented people and keep them around. We can continue on those small plot research programs where we're not having to nickel and dime and, apply for a grant every single year to do a $10,000 project. Being able to do field tested programs, so those larger scale ones where we're doing field scale research. Building a better knowledge transfer program, magazine is kind of our way of starting that, but we want to keep rolling. One thing I really want to be doing is having a website that has a members only portal that has a ton of research at their fingertips, whether it's some training, it's market info, it's mapping with some data, information on past projects that's actually in a usable form, that kind of thing. Collaborating with, different partners such as universities, Ag Canada, Innotech Alberta, Alberta Ag, municipal government, regional farms and businesses. And then, upgrading equipment and other infrastructure such as buildings. So, next one. So just, some pictures, a couple nice things people have said about us. Next one. So, one question is, what can we do for you? Where do you guys see the needs of your producers? And if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, I guess the one that I see is which has been something that I've worked on for a whole number of years, is growing that bison industry. And you have to do that through organizations like this where people begin to understand that they aren't the wild, crazy animal that everybody thinks they are. So, so I think there's some work we can do there. I don't know what you guys think, but
Well, I guess a question to the group. I'll fess up, I wasn't aware of this organization. Were you, Faye?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Well,
on
that's-
number, no, sorry.
Sorry, no offense.
Yeah,
I think like there was GROW, that used to be Pembina Forage Association, but that's GROW now.
Yeah.
And you guys network with GROW as well.
Yeah, we try and do quite a bit of collaboration. We're working with them to bring in, actually, we're doing a Souls workshop and collaboration together in June here. So, where it works, we do try. They're a little more focused on the crop end, but they definitely, I'd like to cross over a bit on the grazing side. Because that, kind of lands.
Yeah,
with
most of us here, I would suggest, are grass farmers. That's, the harvester is just the product that we put on the market. So.
I think some education, maybe some boosts, things like that, I think is really important, because I didn't know about this either. I wasn't sure. I'm not a big producer by no means, but I think educating and getting the name out there is quite important, I feel.
Well, I think some of the industries that would flourish from that would be, because we live in an area where there is the potential for smaller land holdings.
Yeah.
It would start to increase the amount of young people that would get involved in agriculture, which is something that I'm really, really hoping we can accomplish.
Yeah, that's
So,
definitely been like, we've done some strategic planning, and that's one of the things that's come up is, yeah, how do we kind of attract that next generation back to the farm? And so trying to be cognizant of that with some of our KTT stuff, and yeah, trying to be inclusive of, yeah, those smaller ones, because yeah, I'm a small farmer, so yeah, it's challenging to go and network when you're up against some of the big guys, so yeah.
well, I think for the purposes of what our strategic plan as a municipality is that is one of the things that we're looking at is how do we get more people involved in agriculture per se. And so I think it aligns a lot with what you guys are doing here. So I think there's some things that we could do there, and I think it's something that we should bring back to our council as having a look at how can we participate as a municipality. So
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Yeah, if you need me to come up or need some resources, like by all means, or if there's events that come up that you think we'd be a good fit to, just even have a table at, more than happy to. I know one thing we're kind of looking at also is connecting at some of the high school career fairs and stuff as well, to give a better representation of what all agriculture can look like, because sometimes doesn't always get its fair image. So
When I was reading through the presentation that you had sent, I really liked the information on like the different forages that you grew, like the silage. Like that was just some information that's like, it made sense to me.
Awesome.
It's like you don't have to go do it. So that was really interesting, as well as the sire in the commercial herds. Like that's kind of been a big thing for us. Is we used to just have like 110 cows and you put out every bull, and then what would happen if you made it like smaller groups, and and it's the results are really different. So
yeah, I think we're planning to do a bit of a follow-up project with that. Bart Lardner out of the University of Saskatchewan, they really do quite a bit of work with the beef side, and so he loves that project. So we're thinking of doing some way of following that up, and trying to make some tools on how producers can essentially make better decisions with information.
it's nice to see that it's like for commercial people. Like not everything is
Purebred?
purebred. Yeah, it's like this is attainable stuff that producers in our area can use.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we really want to strive for essentially all of the output on our projects, is making it useful for anyone to pick up, be able to get something out of it and apply it. Because I don't think any producer is really going to go to a university, look up some of those research projects and take away stuff from it and actually be able to use it, or very, very few, I should say. So that's kind of where we see our role as that connector piece.
Yeah.
good.
One thing I can add.
Go on.
In our budget for 2022, we do have a small pot of funding available for plot research, plot collaboration, but it is a small pot. It's like $5,000. So it might be something that we can look at, maybe splitting. I know it's not a ton of money, but it is a little bit.
A little
Well-
bit goes a long ways.
Well, and I think in order for us to access and to start to collaborate, I think we should maybe just we'll get a motion to task you to have a look at what things we could do to bring those resources here. And then I guess it's going to be from the interest of the producers that are here as to what we do.
Yeah.
So
What makes sense for this area and where their interests are, and
And we do provide financial support for SACA too.
okay,
So there's
that's right too. Yeah.
What's the membership fee?
whopping $30.
Okay.
So usually, with the $30, you get reduced rates on events, newsletters, And then eventually we're hoping to turn it into kind of a members only area on our website too, where we can provide a lot more value there as well, so, yeah.
One of the things that I believe needs to happen, and I don't know if you share this belief, but I think what needs to happen is we need to have memberships, maybe a special membership open for consumer interest groups who are interested in seeing what producers are doing to produce their food, because we really lack there as
Yeah.
far as linking with our consumer.
Yeah, and that's been kind of a point that came up also in our strategic planning is like, where is our membership? And yeah, how do we connect with the end consumer or, you know, the general public on, you know, where your food comes from and where could our role be? It's one I struggle with, just more or less for the fact, like, you almost need to have like a communication specific person to really focus and do like a good job of that, because you don't want to half-ass that one.
No.
So, yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's come to the front, and it's just, I don't know how or what the best way is. And it's almost like, it's a collaborative effort that, you know, all the commissions really should be coming together and funding, you know, a solid kind of program around that versus everyone just shells
Doing
out their
their own
own.
thing, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree with you.
So yeah, it comes down to funding.
Well, and I think that's, you know, the more groups that have that conversation, the greater the possibility is that we're going to get somewhere with that, because it's going to,
Yeah.
at some point in time, it's going to happen, and it's better that we push it than it comes from the other side.
Yeah.
Because, then it's our story and our relationship, not somebody else's.
Yeah, you can kind of control that narrative. Yeah. So 100% agree.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming out, and I'm hoping that we get something going here.
Yeah, sounds great.
So,
Thank you all for having me, and yeah, if you have any questions at any time or suggestions or whatnot, feel free to email me. It's just manager@westcentralforge.com. It's on our website, so yeah. Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day, guys.
thank you. Okay, could I have a motion to accept her presentation?
I can make a motion that we accept the West Central Forage Association presentation as information.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, I'll call a question. All in favor? Okay, the next step is maybe what we should do in order to move this into a place where we get some action. We maybe should direct our manager to have a look at how we, what do you see us doing there with that, Don? Or is that, do we need a motion for you to pursue that?
I don't know if we need a motion per se, because I've been working with them anyway.
Okay.
Bring some information forward to the next meeting and
Yeah, because I think in order for us to start putting those links together, first of all, we should see if we can get a couple of the producers around here to, as members, to see whether we can't push some of this stuff forward, so we get some research happening. And maybe there is a place where we can start doing with this ag profile, starting to link that together. Just have a look and see what you can
Yeah, I
do
think
with
it's going to be all
Okay.
cohesive.
Good.
We could also have Becky come back in
Yeah.
our fall meeting to see how the summer went.
Yeah, that
What's
would
that?
be good. That would be really
Do
good.
that.
Okay.
and see if any more membership between now and then. We get a bit of
Yeah.
an uptick or see some positive from if she does put a booth up or something.
Yeah, because there are some events this summer coming up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
haven't had them in a couple of years, so maybe they see a little.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a few people that I can think of off the top of my head that I'm gonna mention this too, so.
Okay.
It's
Do
some,
we want to have a motion to provide them partial funding of that pot that we have? Like
Yeah,
split
we
it
could do
between-
that. We could do that if you
Because I'm
see
pretty
some
sure
value.
Bo is gonna be in
Yeah.
the same boat, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you want it, that's what the money is there for, is to
Okay.
support those groups, so it's budgeted for, but it's not specifically ear tagged for.
Yeah. But I
Grow
think
or
if we're
West
going to
Central.
do something with it, it serves purpose to have a look at that. And you're the manager of that fund, right?
The keeper of the purse
The
strings.
keeper of the purse.
Okay. Yeah, so we can just forward some cash to them,
Yeah,
not cash.
we
Funding.
could do some collaborative funding with them, if we could have a motion to that effect. Okay? How are you gonna word that motion? How's she gonna word that motion, Jen?
Losing the purse string. Perhaps that we forward, funding per the 22 budget. Does that make sense?
So which part of the budget? That's the,
Special part.
The special part. It is, I believe it is in the demonstration programs budget in the ag services.
so we want to include that in the motion.
We can. Let's see if I can find exactly what it is.
Do you need a motion to do that? Because you can spend the budget as you,
It's approved by council already, so.
Yeah.
But it's just good because
To get it
what
going.
we're making a choice to
Sure,
enter
yeah.
into some
Yep.
collaboration with them.
Cause we wouldn't need council, further council.
No.
no, but
For the,
Even-
especially for the amount that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Make the motion to forward.
So Faye moved this.
I did.
So is there any more discussion on the motion that Jen is writing up for us?
Can we read it? What's it
Could we
I
say?
have administration to forward funding from the 2022 demonstration program budget to WCFA.
That's very good.
That's
Faye, that
That's
sounded great.
awesome.
I like it.
That's what I was thinking.
It sounds great. That's
Thanks,
about
Jen.
perfect, actually.
So is there any more discussion on that? I'll call the question, all in favor? All right, thank you, guys. So. All right, we'll move on to the next group of people that we're interested in having some information from. Thank you very much for coming, because we have some questions for you.
I bet you do.
So,
Yeah, so first off, Morgan Roseduke, he's one of the bar head officers. And my name is Mike Ewald. I'm, I guess, the provincial problem wildlife specialist within Fish and Wildlife Enforcement Services.
Okay.
So, just to clarify a few things first, Dawn, you forwarded me the letters yesterday. And in reading those letters that other counties have written to those ministers, that really, I hope you're not looking for a bunch of answers from us in those letters. Because Fish and Wildlife Enforcement, I don't know what it was there, when they basically divorced us from the biologists and put us in the enforcement in the sheriff's branch, and kind of thing like that there. Anything dealing with population management and those management strategies and goals and research projects and things like that stays with the biological end of things. And so what we deal with are those individual case-by-case basis. And so for all these depredation claims, whether it's on livestock or haystacks or things like that there, when the local staff get the calls, then they respond to them on an individual case-by-case basis. So basically we deliver a program that is housed within Alberta Environment Parks. So that's where there's a lot of confusion, a lot of duplicitous work, and I will say it again, even though I get slapped every time I say government is duplicitous. So yeah, we look at those and forward them over, we put everything together and forward them to the applicable spot, whether it's AFSC or whether it's AEP. And that where they review it and kind of make the final decisions on funding or supplies or materials provided or whatever, things like that. So, and then when it goes into the problem wildlife end of things, again, more of a case-by-case individual incident assessment in there, and so just, and that, so yeah, as far as the information that was those other counties, everything we're looking for in those letters, boy, thank goodness it's way over my head. I got a hold of a bunch of the people, and with all those different letters written by all those different counties and that, to those different ministers, I learned last night that there's been quite a few ARs, the action requests, response back to the minister, providing information that they've provided back to those counties and MDs and that sort of stuff. So, and I'm not privy to what was in those things there. So, and whereas I work in my provincial position, I work fairly closely with provincial carnivore specialist and the problem wildlife conflict specialist within AEP and that, but yeah, short of that, we get our say kind of thing on what we're seeing and dealing with, because as Fish and Wildlife officers, we're kind of the front line. Producers, resource users see us a whole lot more than they see the biologists that are making those big management decisions and those, I guess, policy and program, basically species management. Whereas we really deal with individual animal management.
Well, that's, I guess, this may be a question that you won't want to answer, but from my perspective, in Alberta, we don't have wildlife management because there is a divorce between enforcement, there's a divorce between the biologists, there's a divorce especially between agriculture producers, between the hunting community. And so from a service board and a municipal perspective, if we see those things from the grassroots, and we sit in these chairs to make decisions, how would you see us as being a group that advocates for starting to bring those pieces together so we have farmers, hunters, biologists, enforcement people sitting at the same table saying, what's the goal here? What's the best scenario for us as a municipality?
Yeah, and actually I mentioned kind of similar thing to Don yesterday, that whether we wanted to reschedule this, where now that, I got those letters yesterday and figure out, okay, this is the scope of it here, where we can get a bunch more of those players to the table as well. And where those players that have written those responses to those other letters from those other counties and that would be something that I would love to see, because, yeah, as part of, and I'll call it game wardens, now we're in the sheriff branch, more and more enforcement, more and more toward the provincial police. And I'll come right out and say it, I'm biased. I'm the provincial problem wildlife specialist, so where my interests lie. And yet, we do the same duties, we're dressed the same, we drive the same truck, and that sort of stuff there. So the enforcement is a definite part of it. For me being a game warden, for 30 some years now, definitely that's part of it there. And so, but also I've worked with the biological side of it, in Grand Prairie, doing caribou studies, working when these elk first started being a problem 30 some years ago. And so there's gotta be a connection between the producers, the landowners, and the biologists that manage these species and make all the laws. Like every law pertaining to hunting or basically wildlife management is made by the biologists, and we enforce it. And so if there's not that collaboration, if you don't get buy-in, you can write all the tickets you want. For me, enforcement is just an education process. All the presentations, all the, whatever meetings, things like that there that we put on as officers is basically free education. And as soon as they don't abide by those rules that are in the regulations and that sort of stuff there, that's when their education starts to cost them. Things like that there. So if you don't get buy-in, big deal. So there's a monetary fine. If you're not getting buy-in, you're not getting management of the species properly. and that sort of thing there. So, and you know, you can learn a lot with all the studies, but if you're not taking the information from the producer, you know, with that ground truthing, really, you know, boots on the ground that are seeing it, and you know, then I think you're missing a huge part of it. And as I've stated all the time, when they've tried to trim more and more problem wildlife away from the enforcement side of things, you know, problem wildlife is a definite way for us to develop relationships with with the producers, where we're not just the ticket writing, you know, green uniformed person there that's doing the enforcement. We're also there to help with these different issues. And if we're delivering this program, you know, whether it's a bear killing calves or whether it's elk in the haystacks, you know, that's our ticket in for the producer to see that we're human beings and we got the same concerns that they do, and that we can hopefully facilitate some sort of, you know, advice to reduce those issues. And so, yeah, to have everybody at the same table, I think it's imperative.
Well, and I think that, and maybe Councillor Dean and Williams can chip in on this, but I think that we have an ability to advocate through RMA and through the Services Board.
Yeah.
We have an ability to advocate that we become part of the management solution. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's important because it's not so much about the elk eating our hay or the predation. It's about how are we good stewards as producers, which means what are the things that we can do to you know, maybe facilitate a situation where the education portion is there, and the enforcement portion is there, and the biologists help us understand why some of these things are happening, because I don't think we have a baseline as far as the grizzly population is concerned. I don't think we have a baseline here in this area as far as the elk is concerned. And I got a picture actually on my phone of 67 mule deer in my hayfield the other day, which proves that the mule deer protection program has worked really well, because 10 years ago you might have seen 2. Mm-hmm. So there's management going on, but we don't know about it. And I think that's where we would like to be.
And that's where I see, you know, because really to speak about management, I'm speaking on school, because again, that's not our wheelhouse.
What you do.
You know, yeah.
So we need those people at the table.
Yeah.
Alan, go ahead.
A question for Dawn, I guess. The provincial board, the ASB board, has this topic, to your recollection, has that come to that board, and do they have a strategy behind it?
I don't know if it specifically come to the board, but it was part of a resolutions session at one point.
So then it went to the government.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess from an advocacy point of view, where I'm going is that I think the collective voice is much stronger than a bunch of individuals.
Yeah.
And maybe what we should be doing is presenting our concern to the provincial board and see if there's an opportunity for them to advocate. Mm-hmm. I understand there's been a resolution, but I'd like to get some background on, mm-hmm. I can't remember what that resolution said, and see whether, you know, what the results were.
Well, and I think the other thing maybe is you know, it's not probably just us. I'm sure that there's this kind of thought process going on all over the province. But maybe we need to have a sit down with all of the players, like as a, you know, maybe there needs to be an organization formed that sits down and starts developing some of these education, how we relate, because if that doesn't exist, then the foundation isn't there.
So yesterday after I read these letters yesterday afternoon, and then you bet I scrambled, got on the phone, left messages, and basically was on the phone until late evening last night. finding out that there's been quite a few ARs, action requests, written up and returned to those ministers and returned to those counties and that sort of stuff there. So, and I'll be honest and blunt, I got some pretty blunt instructions from the other departments to cancel, postpone, reschedule this meeting when we can get all the players to the table. And I said, good, because that's what needs to happen. You know, as one of them was loading his truck late last night heading for Fort McMurray, working on a black bear research project, you know, the provincial carnivore biologist was heading there, you know,
I
so.
hope he's not going to Gypsy Lake.
So, you know, and I know that, you know, when I mentioned that, yeah, we're coming in here to talk about the elk depredation and programs associated with that, all I was told was, well, do we even have any elk depredation complaints stemming out of, you know, this east end of Woodlands over here? And that, and so, and yeah, his advice was, Mike, like, reschedule, don't go talk, you know, but as far as initiating something to get it rolling, like when, you know, when Don and I chat about this, you know, you bet, I think it's important, necessary for even individual components to start chatting to get where we can now go back and get the real players to the table of those big picture management, because yeah, you know, for those management programs and, you know, whatever else like that, I know there's some counties that have bought in and they are in a complete sharing thing there, that they're going to go into some of these, you know, control efforts or whatever, elk depredation haystacks and that, work in partnership with government. And then other counties have asked for an all-out aerial cull. So it's probably, you know, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, but it certainly shows the sentiment that's out there in order to get people talking. It's one thing I've learned in government in 30-some years is that basically to get anywhere you got to go shoot for here, kind of thing. So, so maybe they're not that serious about a complete aerial cull.
Yeah.
You know? But it gets the message across that they want some dialogue and some meetings, you know, and a plan put in place.
Yeah, well, because there is so many, you know, I mean, we've seen it with the wolf call, we've seen it with when they did the CWD with the white-tailed deer here, the outrage from the people that are, you know, more inclined to not understand that we're part of the problem as well. And so, yeah, I think we need to have that conversation. I think we really need it for us to advocate and to start pushing government as a region of municipalities. We really need to have all of the players at the table and come up with something that works for everybody. So
yeah. So yeah. So basically, with that, I can say that I can certainly send an email, you know, and make phone calls to like Mark Heckbert, Paul Frame. Mark Heckbert's the provincial problem wildlife conflict specialist, you know, that deals a lot with the elk depredation issues, and he's very familiar with Saddle Hills and Grand Prairie and Birch Hills and all that sort of stuff there. He's based out of High Prairie. And then Paul Frame is the provincial carnivore specialist. So he would definitely be the one in the know about anything there is to know about the grizzly bears here.
yeah, they're just starting to come in. Like I've lived here all my life, and we'd see maybe one every 10 years. Now we're seeing 5 or 6 every year.
Yeah.
And so they've, you know, so we don't know as an agricultural community, we don't know whether they're being pushed out of their habitat by the intensive logging that's going on, or whether that population is actually increasing that much that they're starting to spread their wings a little bit again.
Yeah, and as the agency that responds to those different calls, again, you know, we're not responding to a biological study. We're responding to, as a scientist would say, we're responding to those anecdotal incidents. And when I got asked, because I was in Grand Cache for 17 years as an officer, and I got asked about grizzly bears around Grand Cache, and I said, there's no doubt in my mind that they're extremely healthy population, and there's no need to cancel the hunt, and all I got back was, well, Mike, your information is anecdotal, it's not scientific. So in other words, shut up. Kind of thing there.
Yeah, we'll make the decision.
Yeah, so it can be frustrating, you know, that way, and again, because not all the players are at the table, you know, and you need, and when I talked about the Swan Hills Grizzly study from 2018, you know, according to government, as I said, Don, that's basically hot off the press. You know, it's 4 years old, and yet it's hot off the press. You know, so in order to put something together like that there, yeah, it'll, you know, boy, it won't just happen next year.
Yeah.
And to be fair, you know, to come back to that comment about anecdotal versus science-based, in order for governments to provide direction, they have to validate things. They have to justify their decision-making. And you're out in the field and you see them.
Yeah.
You know, if you, I guess, I don't know how they conduct their studies, but they probably do it through helicopters and through
I was
grid
very
maps
involved.
and yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've been-
I understand why somebody that's challenged with making those types of decisions wants science-based
They have to.
information.
They have to be able to justify it to that science community
Yeah.
on how they're doing things and justify it so that it is actually accepted information. And yeah, I've been one of the province's grizzly bear specialists for close to 20 years now.
Sure.
And so yeah, there's a lot of grizzly bears out there, and I would agree, in my opinion, you know, that yeah, the population is expanding, and
In this area, you'd agree with that?
province wide.
Oh,
Sure,
Yeah, but yes, in this area as well.
sure.
Because I agree, I've got, you know, some relatives living right across the river over there at Viga, and that, yeah, you know, to have rivers or travel corridors and that sort of thing there. So, but yeah, the numbers, and even Slave Lake, you know, 20 years ago, boy, they dealt with a grizzly every first 1-2 years, maybe, you know, every year or every second year. Now they're dealing with 6 or 8 a year. We've got them in Evansburg on a regular basis now.
Well, and I think for us as the people that are representing our communities, I think it's important that we figure out a way to start to get this dialogue going, and maybe change the direction of how wildlife management is approached. So we get all of the players at the table, the hunters, the fishermen, you know, and to be perfectly honest with you, I think that in order to have all the stakeholders, we need the resource companies as well. You know, because that in order to formulate a plan that would look like management, everybody has to be at the table.
And that's where, with that Foothills Research Institute that did all those grizzly bear studies, province-wide, pretty well the whole eastern slopes, you know, and out to Swan Hills here, and Swan Hills was, I think, the last area to get studied.
Yeah.
And that, they're a major, you know, funder of that program was industry. You know, because I know that when we were trapping grizzlies south of Hinton and all that, you know, the coal mines were very involved in that. And so, yeah, and they've got the whole province pretty well mapped out to where, you know, it's support zones or.
Well, and part of the reason that I'm interested in this as well is just because I think landowners have to understand that grizzlies and elk and mule deer don't have borders.
Yeah.
And so it's our responsibility to make sure that if they are, you know, if they are becoming a problem, what do we do to take care of it? How do we should be relating in a overall better way to our hunter population. You know, we should understand that they don't belong to us, these animals. So if there's hunters that are, and then in the bigger picture as well, is I think we need to have a healthy wildlife population, which is not something that most farmers, there's a lot of guys that would slap me for saying that.
There's a lot of farmers as well that, you know, on any other given normal year, have no issues with having a bunch of those critters on the landscape. They enjoy it.
Yeah.
To them, you know, they basically have the same motto there, that it shows a healthy balance.
Yeah.
And then you get a year like last year that feed is in extreme short supply or not there, you know, and so you get one bunch of, like, one deer show up in the haystack and our phones are ringing. So,
Yeah.
you know,
very
things
true.
like that. And so, yeah, I was gonna let Morgan speak on basically those calls, like those individual
Yeah.
calls, when it comes into the ungulates, you know, and then we can get into the bear stuff as well. But you know, because there is a few different options as far as the ungulates in crop and haystack and that sort of stuff there, and because of the feed shortage this past winter, and both of us raise cattle as well on the side,
Okay.
so, so we know.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I can speak from more of a area perspective like that. Basically, probably from about January 4th to March 15th, I probably could have just been designated as a hay yard depredation guy, because that's about all I did.
Chase
We
them out every day.
Over 50 claims between Derek and myself in the area. Kind of just had a perfect storm this year. Yeah, like Mike was saying, we raise cattle over by Evansburg. We have a 300 cow-calf pair operation, so going from 3 bales an acre to about a half a bale an acre was a pretty big shock, and in turn that kind of also put some grazing land and some other crops in pretty short supply. That then the cold weather plus the deep snow in this winter, you know, kind of showed the ungulates' hands on where they had to go. They couldn't paw in the fields anymore, so they went to the next available food source, which was generally haystack yards. We have a couple programs here in Alberta. The way the process basically works, if we have a producer that's having issues with those ungulates, they would phone the local office, and then we would be dispatched out to these hay yards. We would fill out a form that we then hand off to AFSC. They send out an adjuster who comes out and takes a peek at your stacked crop or at your stacked hay. Then they either approve or deny you based on the stuff that we found there and what they see themselves, and then they can offer payouts based on yearly prices on that. Like Mike was saying, I think every producer pretty well had their bales counted down to the nearest straw, so they were. It was a tough year that way, and especially with a year like this, we have methods that we can help producers with. So we have our snow fencing that you can put around stackyard, which is very effective. We have our propane cannons. We have various scent deterrents, whether that's putting out wolf lure in areas where wolves are common predators for these ungulates. We have things that work, but in a year like this, we were essentially just chasing these deer off a mile for them just to go a mile down the road to the next hay yard. And we were hopscotching these things, right? So the two programs, I guess, that you can take part in then past, you know, just your yearly claims that happen. We have our page wire fencing, which is if you supply the posts, the Alberta government supplies up to 6 rolls of 8-foot high page wire that you can surround your feed yards with. And then we also have what's called a flex program, which we offer basically a third cost sharing for 7.5-foot panels up to $10,000 in cost. So the panels is obviously, you know, if you have maybe a moving feed yard or you do silage bales that you put up in your fields, those can be more effective for when you don't have a permanent stack yard. But obviously the cost of it up front is a lot more for the producer. So there are a couple options. When you do enter into one program, if you do take the page wire fencing, you cannot go into the flex program with the panels, so you choose at that point of the year. And both these programs also have caps on them. So if we have a bad year like this year, sometimes those funds get eaten up relatively quickly in the year. But that's not to say that when we have historic problems with a lot of producers in the area, right, that we can't start moving forward with that and say, hey, look, if you can get some posts in the ground this summer, then I can probably get you fencing by next year, October, November kind of thing, right? So those are kind of the two options, I guess. I know every year it seems we have guys who end up stopping us on the road who say, like, hey, I'm just kind of at wit's end here. I have 60 deer in my feed stack, like, and they had no idea that we even have these programs available. Like, we surprise guys that we have things like this. And so I think as kind of a group for you guys as well we try our best to tell people, but for you guys as the head honchos as well to tell your producers that we do have programs that can help them out in this situation. It can be really beneficial because You know, I'm not playing God in my situation. I'm simply here to tell you what's right and what's wrong when we have those things. And if people need it, the resources are there. So I have no problem coming out and checking stuff out and either approving it or disproving it, depending on what happens. A few of the issues I guess we run into years like this, when I said we have a perfect storm though, is like Mike was saying, on good years when you have good crop coming off or you have good silage cut coming off, like you said, they have no problem feeding deer for, you know, the dozen that come in and go through bales. The only problem is that when that happens over a 4-year stretch when we had good growing weather, is now you create multiple generations of deer who that's what they rely on come January, February. So now we're trying to solve, you know, a month-long problem that happened 10 years in advance. So there does need to be a little bit of give and take on that way. But with that being said, I have no problem coming out and taking a peek at these things so that they're on the books when you do have 6 deer in your haystack. You know, like just because there's only a few animals, let us know so we can start building that rapport. We can start building maybe some problem solving techniques later on as we go on, and not just trying to deal with that, you know, like I said, that 1 month problem and trying to get that done. Because like in a year like this last year, it's very, very difficult because like I said, you just get poured over into the next feed yard. That's pretty well all I got to say on that. I'm not sure if you guys have any questions for me at all.
Are you seeing, like, in this area, are you having any bear issues?
In terms of like onto depredation, like onto
Yeah.
lapped feed and anything like that?
Yeah, to, you know, going after animals or?
Not nothing really specifically, I guess. Mike, you can
Yeah,
tell.
just south of the river, south of Camp Creek,
Okay,
we just had a really large male black bear this spring take one of Calvin Cook's,
okay.
one of his first calves, oldest calves. There.
And the wolves haven't been a problem since there's been this,
No, we don't dare,
since
we don't
the
dare
bad
even talk
winters
about
have
them.
reduced the wolf population.
Yeah, so bears, and literally, like that one there was, that one bear on Calvin's place there was, yeah, there was a no-brainer. Normally, we get a call like that, you know, because there is a compensation program, but coyotes are not covered.
Yeah.
Wolves, black bears, grizzlies, cougars, and eagles are covered. So we can go into that, and that, but yeah, eagles are covered basically for the lamb producers and the goat, you know, kids and lambs and things like that there. So, but we don't pay for missings. The program doesn't pay for missings, and that's usually the issue with eagles. They swoop in and take the lamb or the kid and gone, and that. And so,
Cats as well.
yeah,
The cougars usually, like, we've lost a few bison to cats.
yeah.
They just drag them off, they're gone.
Yeah, but if that's the case, like we can come and, you know, yeah, of course, you know, we're really counting on the producer, the farmer, to be looking after his livestock and really checking kind of things there. But for some of those species there, because some of those bison calves, some of those, you know, things like that there, a cat's not going to eat them overnight. You know, they're going to eat them over about a 4-day period, and then they're going to leave and they're going to come back in another week to check it out again.
Yep.
And that, and so, yeah, because they, if we can confirm it, because if we get the call and we go out and look and it's missing, it's just missing. Because again, same thing, we've got to be transparent with everything we do. It's got to be able to drop the file on your guys' desk and you guys look at it, and with a little explanation or whatever, you can see, okay, yeah, I can see that a wolf is the one that killed this. Not just the fact that a wolf or a bear ate it, because we all know they eat, you know, beef, you know, things like that. There is, did they kill it?
Yeah.
Are they responsible with the injuries that are there? So is there bruising? You know, was there signs of a struggle out there? So basically we go out and do the investigation. And yeah, as biased on problem wildlife end of things I am, and maybe not so much toward enforcement, I tell a lot of young guys when we're teaching all the recruits from Western Canada, the problem wildlife course, tell them a problem wildlife investigation on a calf kill, let's say, is exactly the same as an enforcement investigation. Your job is to go collect the information, collect the evidence to tell the story on what happened. And that, without jumping to conclusions early, collect all the evidence you possibly can first, and then put it all together to tell the story what happened. Basically, like you do an enforcement file, you tell the judge who has no clue what hunting or fishing is like, but he looks at the file and he can see, yeah, okay, definitely, without a doubt, that's what happened. So, and for us to spend taxpayers' dollars or whatever on compensation programs, it's gotta be transparent like that. So, yeah, so with this calf down here, we got there and I didn't have to skin it. It was, cause look, typically, on a good case, each predator has their own style of attack. And that they all, like dogs, they're a chase animal. So there's gonna be those tail strippings, there's gonna be dock tails, there's gonna be bite marks and raking on the back end, and a wolf's got canines about 1.5 to 2 inches between the upper canines, where a coyote's got wee little fine teeth and they're only 1 inch, 1.25 inches between. So if I'm looking at a calf and it's got wee little fine punctures in the hide and there's bruising on those, and it's only 1 inch, 1.25 inches there, sorry, it was a coyote. And as I tell all the young officers who are training, we're not looking for ways to get away from paying the producer. We're just being transparent and being thorough with our investigation. In fact, if there's so much consumed, scavenged on it that you can't tell the cause of death, then basically it gets documented and put on storage. And if we have a confirmed kill by a predator within 10 kilometers in 90 days, then those ones that were probable get slotted as a probable, and he gets 50% market value. So it's really imperative that all these producers talk to their neighbors and did you get a confirmed kill? We're also looking when we get these different ones and all of a sudden, oh, well, just 5 miles up the road, we had another one. And we're not looking, we're not going to cut it off at 10.0 kilometers. If it's, because these, like you say, these animals don't care about fences and boundaries and that sort of stuff. So yeah, but that black bear kill, Derek Brenson's been in Barhead for 15 years at least. Yeah. He's never had a confirmed black bear kill on a calf since he's been here. And this one was, and it was really nice for me that we'd had, on April 21st, we had 2 inches of snow. And so the tracks that were there, and you could see the fight, you could see where the blood started as he was dragging this thing, thrashing further into the bush. And the fact that cow went in there and pushed him off it. And the way he bit it on top of the withers, grabbed it, ragdolled it, crushed the spine, everything else, and just absolutely looked as if he was following the textbook on how a bear is supposed to attack. So it's perfect. So I kept that calf for training in July when I'm teaching the recruits again from Western Canada to show them what a typical bear attack looks like on a calf. Because we get them to do hands-on, skin out these things and see and then check, we show them, if you got the lungs there, and you put the lungs in a bucket of water and they sink, sorry, it was stillborn, never took a breath. If those lungs float, well, he breathed. Kind of thing. So there's all these little things that basically, corroborate and show what, whether the thing was stillborn or not. Because as a small producer, where there's livestock, you got dead stock. And not every dead stock is caused by predators.
No.
And yet, so when you talk to producers, what's the acceptable mortality rate on a farm? Some with their farming practices are higher mortality than others, and that's acceptable. But as soon as you get one predator-related kill, it's not acceptable.
World's coming to an end.
It's right, And then how things have been done for decades or generations. When you get a dead cow, it goes to the back 40, and it just disappears. Right now, all morning since 7:30 this morning, I was on the phone dealing with Grand Prairie guys. They got a producer that has had a calf killed earlier this year, and grizzly bear, and they confirmed it. And then during the investigation, they found that he had quite a dead pit, 3/4 of a mile from the house. But over the last little while, they've learned there's 8 different grizzly bears feeding in that dead pit. So as he's kind of reduced that dead pit and secured it a little more, all of a sudden last night, the grizzly bears revolted and they went and created more deads. And seven more got killed last night. Yeah. Wow. I'm kidding. So you can imagine how my phone's been blowing up. So I'm supposed to be heading for Pincher Creek this afternoon, but now I might be going to Grand Prairie. So, but yeah, so those things there. So if we can, as grizzly bears expand, if we can get some of the producers to basically educate them and understand that if they were to put up a permanent electric fence around their dead pile and do a little better job burying composting, you know, then you're not gonna have an issue. Electricity works for keeping bears out. There's a reason why beekeepers electrify their bee yards. And when a beekeeper phones us, he's got a bear in his bee yard. Well, all the local big-time beekeepers around here know, don't even phone if we don't have a fence around it.
Yeah.
You know, no fence, there's no response from us. And that. And again, there's all these different allocation ways they're allowed to do. Black bears on private land are basically a pest. So anybody with permission from the landowner or lessee can shoot a black bear 12 months of the year, no license required. Not so with grizzly bears.
Yeah.
You know, there is compensation programs for the beef, for livestock. And again, not all animals are covered, but, you know, beef, bison, sheep, goats, and pigs are the 5 species covered in that there. So all your non, and I say this kind of carefully because some people do make their living off llamas and that sort of stuff there. And that, but yeah, those kind of animals and horses, you know, they're not covered. Traditional non-food producing, from when the Wildlife Act was written, those food producing animals are covered. And I do believe coyotes were not covered way back in 1980 when they wrote the act there, because the government realized that there is a lot of coyotes out there. And they don't want to be on the hook for it. But so yeah, there's coverage
Well,
of
and
fine
I
producing animals.
think landowners need to take a certain level of responsibility for those things that
Yep.
that are going on. Like, I mean, if you're feeding the bear and then you take the food away, you've just
He's gonna create his own.
He's gonna create his own.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's, you know, we saw it in Evansburg, same thing, you know, a dead pile with a bit, and then, yeah, improved farming practices and really reduced the mortality rate.
Yeah.
And the grizzly bear walked down the feed alley and created his own. They just grabbed that yearling steer by the head and pulled him through the feed gate, you know, and ate him right there in the feed alley. Kind of thing there. So, yeah, and so if we can educate, because again, you know, to go and deal with these grizzly bears, if the farmer doesn't do anything about that dead pile, in another couple of years, there's going to be more grizzly bears in the dead pile. You know, so going to catch a bear and moving it is a Band-Aid. It's not the solution. You know, there's different options. Like when we got down, I was down in Sundre last week. Yeah, I guess it was a couple weeks ago here, and we got grizzly bears ripping the metal grain bin doors off granaries, trying to get at the grain. You know, they're quite persistent and things like that there. While there is pretty well a program there where the government is, you know, helping out financially, paying for these refurbished fortified grain bin doors that Hull has the plans for, and they built these things, and it's basically a bear-proof door on a grain bin. Nothing there. So, you know, and that's what this meeting is about, partially what this meeting is about down in Waterton, Pincher Creek, that I'm supposed to be heading to. Waterton Biosphere down there, that group meets collaboratively with the enforcement and the biologists quite a bit, and they're a major stakeholder in basically getting all the producers together with a lot of these solutions. Because, you know, I'm not a farmer. I've got cows in my place. I count 25 a year, you know, between my kids and I. But, you know, when I'm going out, I'm not giving advice to farmers because I'm a farmer and I do it right or whatever. I'm giving advice because I have the advantage. I go to literally hundreds of farms a year, and I hear what they've tried, what works, and what they've tried and doesn't work. And some of the gadgets that we buy, you know, some of them work and some of them don't work.
Yeah.
You know, and so, and some of them that don't work, other producers have great success with them. So there's a reason why they were on the market, I guess, because someone thought they worked. And maybe in the right situation. But if these animals get too used to it and habituated coming in, they're a lot more difficult. Just like deer in haystacks or elk in haystacks, if you let them get started, good luck. You know, they're going to be pretty persistent getting in. And it's the same thing with bears. Same thing, you know, with all these animals. If they get habituated, they're going to be that much more difficult to deter.
With that being said too, like I tell folks quite often, and I know it's the same you know, it can be a little bit of a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because you see a wolf or a bear in your pasture, your hackles are automatically raised, right? But, you know, especially in areas around here where we have such a diverse plethora of predators, there are good predators to have around. You know, if you have a black bear or you have a cat who's been living in your area for 10 years and hasn't caused you a problem, that animal is now keeping out animals that potentially will cause you a problem. So it's not always just a you see it, you shoot it kind of situation. If you have a cat who's behaving, might be keeping deer populations down, but it's keeping those dispersing animals from coming in that maybe, you know, are a bit more desperate. They'll keep those animals away. So it like we were kind of talking about before, right? There definitely is a balance that people do have to have with these animals, because there are good animals to have around too.
Yeah, so I guess, go ahead, Al.
Well, sorry, I don't mean to take up time, but you mentioned good cat. We had a cat just a few days ago at our place that our dog got tangled up with, and our dog survived, didn't even have a mark on him. And when my wife called the wildlife officer the next day, that's what she was told, you got a good cat. And I'm like, what cat is a good cat?
And yeah, it's to that point, you know, what was it, 6-7 years ago, I was quite involved with quite the extensive wolf extermination project on Connor Creek. You know, whereas for a lot of years before that, the number of deads on beef was just going up every year, and yet they had employed, they hired trappers in the wintertime, they had a bunch of the locals that were shooting wolves, they, you know, everything. They put lots of effort into it over the years, but again, with those good wolves and the way the structure it works, you know, on a normal wolf pack, only the alpha female breeds. She doesn't let the other females in the pack breed. And so if they're a healthy pack, she'll just have pups every year and that's it. And, you know, August, when they're teaching those pups how to hunt, that's when you get a lot of docktails, that's when you get a lot of bites, and that's where you get a lot of attacks on calves and yearlings and that are not typical wolf attacks. So they make it more difficult. They're almost like a domestic dog. They're not schooled in how to do it yet. So when everybody was trying to help themselves and reduce the problem at Connor Creek, they were shooting, they were trapping, you know, they were killing a few of these wolves. But as soon as you do that, then the alpha female notices that some of her pack is gone. So she allows those other females in the pack to breed. So instead of every August having one group of teenagers learning how to hunt and be adults, all of a sudden you got 2, 3, and 4 groups of teenagers. And so that's why if you're killing a few, you're probably going to be worse the next year, because all of a sudden you got all those young pups, just like teenagers. If you've got kids, it's the same way, you know. And so looking again at scientific data, North America wide, it shows if you don't get rid of at least 37% of the wolf pack, you're actually creating more of a problem than you're fixing. So then I pretty well dedicated that year and had different officer staff assisting, and we put collars on some of those wolves, and that was some of the biggest challenge, was to convince some of the old time producers that I was going to trap a wolf and put a collar on it and then let it go among their cattle again, and that, you know, basically let it keep eating beef. Because in the summertime, wolf packs spread out and distribute around the place, and but in the wintertime they pack back up again, and that's when you can do the most damage to the pack size. And we didn't know where they went, because every winter the trappers would be trapping wolves extensively in there, but there's no wolves in there, because once they pull the 5,500 head of beef off there, there's no food, the wolves left. So we collared them and found out where they went, and we targeted that wolf pack. So we ignored the other wolves, and we just got those ones that were basically convicted of liking beef. And we removed that pack. And I tell you, we're holding our breath, because normally when you get rid of that pack, you get about 3 good years, according to scientific data, where you're not going to have any issues for a while, and then it starts building. Well, we just finished year 6 last summer, and we have yet to have a confirmed wolf kill on cattle.
Ticking time bomb.
Oh, yes, because it's time consuming.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't bring in revolving door for staff, because as soon as you bring in new scents, you may as well pull your traps for 2 weeks, because the wolves know it. Yeah. You know, wolves are incredibly smart, and so it's just, so it was a lot of fun. Looking back, it was a lot of fun, but I tell you, I was dedicated to that pretty well extensively then. And that, so there is different ways, you know. Yeah, you can go on to Connor Creek anytime last 6 years and find wolf tracks, but they're not eating beef, you know. So, yeah.
Okay.
So leave them there. They're going to keep those other wolves away, and hopefully slow down the chance that they find out that they can eat beef. And so yeah, for good animals, yeah. In Grand Cache, we had a great big grizzly bear that lived in the town limits of Grand Cache, and people only saw it 3 or 4 times a year. And so those that did, get rid of that thing. You know, it's on our hiking trail. You know, it's a good bear to have there. It's keeping all those other young males and all those black bears out of town. On that whole side of town, is basically patrolling town. And it did, you know, and when that bear finally was gone, you bet our increase in numbers of young males that we ended up having to deal with drastically went up. So, and basically meetings, you know, having producer meetings, you know, where part of government says, no, don't go to those meetings until you got every aspect and every user there, where the biologist can be there and everybody else, but to get the message out, you know, is beneficial for everybody, because again, we still learn, you know, that some of these producers, like Morgan said, have no idea about these compensation programs or these other programs to assist.
Well, I think the reason that we really wanted you to come in was because we want to get ahead of what we see is going to happen here. And in order to do that, we're going to have, I think where we'll go forward from this would be to try to figure out how we put all of the stakeholders together. And I mean, for your thought processes and the people that you guys are dealing with all the time, it may serve a purpose to say, okay, you know, how can we start to change some of these strategies? Let's do a pilot there. Let's have a look at some of this stuff. And I think that's why we really appreciate you guys coming and sharing your information with us.
Yeah, because it is an education thing, and it's not just an overnight hit the switch
No.
and problem solved issue. You know, yeah, it's, when I first got to Grand Cache, we moved 50 to 60 bears a year out of town. You know, the last 3 years I was in Grand Cache, we moved 5 bears total over 3 years.
Yeah.
The bears were still there. It's just people's way of dealing with things was different. They had the dump permanently fenced and electrified, you know, and maintained. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
You know, you have all the fence you want, but if it's not maintained, they know that source is there. So. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, these things here are necessary, and then to get all the big players at the table as well, you know, for those big provincial scope things there, or big area, like all the way from here to Saddle Hills and beyond.
Well, it's nice to hear that we're not the only ones. Like there's ones that are advanced in an advanced stage compared to what's happening here, but you know, it is going to
It's
happen
coming.
here.
Yeah, there's no doubt, you know, and I tell you, if you were to go to Valley View, some of those producers there, and speak up and say you've got 30 elk on your place, you got a problem, they wish they only had 30 elk. You know, they're more than tenfold.
Yeah.
You know, and when that hay bale, you know, gets chewed up and spread on feeding day there, the elk just come storming out of the bush and push the cattle off, and they're eating it.
Yep.
And so you can see the frustration there, where they just say, I'm going to call my local native.
Yeah.
You know, and you can see the frustration.
So I guess, you know, that's, you know, for us to go from here. I think, you know, we got a lot of good information, and we'll stay in contact with you guys, because I think we'll probably try to figure out how, you know, down the road we're going to respond to some of these things, and maybe we can do something together and advocate for and we would do that through our local.
Through the local office, even though they just, as of last month, they closed the local office.
Yeah.
You know, so when you phone there, you get routed right to White Court.
Yeah.
There, so yeah, they had 3 ladies sharing 2 positions there, and you know, 0 doors locked. So.
With that being said, my cell phone number's on these cards.
Okay.
I have no problem. I may not always answer, but I'll get back to you at some point. Leave me a message. I'm this is where I'm working, so
Yeah.
I have no problem chatting with folks.
And Morgan mentioned already as well, you know, if you're handling, you know, and we appreciate it when producers, you know, deal with their own issues and do their own farming and try different things without having us involved in it, it's great, you know, because it's not like we're sitting around looking for things to do. And that, so, but in saying that, to get ahead of these issues that are spreading into the area, if those small, you know, quasi problems that are starting to crop up, if we already know about it and have them documented, because let's face it, with the government, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So to have those issues reported where we can document it, even if nothing gets done, if the producer says, no, I just want you to know about it for future, you know, those are good, that's good information to have, so we can go back and like when I get the provincial conflict specialist, say, well, you guys don't even have any issues there.
Yeah.
And yet he's the one that delivered the 3 or 4 rolls of wire to one of the woods right here.
Yeah.
At Christmas time.
That's a problem across the road here.
You know, so he put metal posts in the ground in minus 35. And that's another thing with this fence program. Unfortunately, we've delivered a lot of page wire fence over the decades. And some of it's got willow trees and poplar trees growing up through those rolls of wire in the yard, or they were on the next farm sale. So now basically they've changed their policy and procedure that wire will only be delivered once posts are in the ground. I know we're,
Which is fair.
yeah, you bet.
You gotta do some work.
Because I was at another yard there with a grizzly issue, and there was like 11 rolls of page wire with thistles and grass and willows growing through it.
Yeah.
So I mentioned to him, well, maybe I can come pick that up. Since it's government wire and we can get it, someone will use it. And pretty well a death threat if I was going to touch that wire. And yet it's been sitting there for about 15 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good. Well,
But yeah, if there is, you know, you've got my email, you've got my cell, so by all means, you know, if we can, because I can certainly connect with the appropriate players in the sandbox.
and I think what we could do as well is make sure that our producers know that they need to document this stuff so that you guys have some data to go by. So I think that's something that we could definitely figure out how to do here.
And if you do have bison calves, you know, that you're quite convinced that a cat has taken it. Now, there's times when we just can't find anything, you know, so it goes unverified.
Well, we watched them.
Yeah.
We watched the cat take a calf because we'd lost one before.
Yeah.
So that was the second one. But it's because they were calving on the corridor, which is the river,
Yeah.
the river valley. So we've just moved them. Now they calve, and that was the end of the problem.
And that's those things there, you bet. And that's what we propose as well a lot of times, is
Yeah.
just change the location of your
Yeah, and
calving pens.
it solved the problem for us.
But yeah, because cats are quite easy to trap in footholds.
Oh yeah.
Very, very easy actually.
And we have cameras. We have cameras out as well, so we know they're there.
Yeah.
But they haven't been a problem, and they've got so many deer to eat that
Yeah, they're helping
they
you.
really shouldn't be. I should be leaving my buffalo alone.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I'd rather tackle a white-tailed doe any day than a bison cow that just can't.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much
bet.
for coming out, and we'll probably be staying in touch.
Yeah.
And I think that at some point in time, we'll probably try to facilitate getting a meeting together. We'll run this through our council as well to see what their thoughts are.
And now that it's been raised as well and initiated here, if I do hear about these other counties having meetings with these
Yeah,
players, you know, then maybe we can combine and
absolutely.
have a much larger one with a whole bunch of.
I think that would be the best,
Yeah, it would.
because then you know, we'd start to have the conversations of having how do we do this as a community of people that are involved in agriculture, fish and wildlife management, and so.
Yeah, because why wait till the problem's here and established, you know?
Yep.
If there's solutions being discussed elsewhere, then may as well not reinvent the wheel.
Yep. Good. Thank
Okay.
you very, very much,
bet.
guys.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Motion to accept as information?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
you make that motion
I
now?
sure did, yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, could we take a 5-minute break before we go into the next?
Sure.
That would work?
Yep. Been sitting for quite a while, so.
Yeah.
Does the
So, 4.3. So welcome to our table, and you have the floor.
Okay, so we'll have the presentation up. And do you have the option to, play a video?
I'm not sure.
Okay, we can try, if not, then I just made a small clip here. Okay, so I'll start. I'm manager at Gateway Research Organization, Sandeep Nan. It's been 6 years working with Gateway Research out of Westlock. Don have seen me quite a few times before too. And I want to thank you for Woodlands County for your support in past, and we have membership in area, and we are working with farmers on many things. Is there any clicker or?
No, I'll have to.
Okay.
Just let me know.
Yeah, so, just all, for the sake of time, the presentation is quite long, I guess, but we'll just try to skip things. And my aim is to just to showcase what Gateway Research is doing in around area for the producer, and how we can, collaborate more and, take the advantage of our work for the producer in the area. So our mandate is to provide the applied agriculture research, scientifically sound information with the knowledge of local growing conditions and the practices that will most fit to the producers around this area. And we are partnered with ERICA, and ERICA is a body of 12 other applied association in Alberta. We kind of, ERICA is the umbrella association where if we have to reach on a provincial scale to do some advocacy, that's the platform we use. In 2021, we had about 48 research projects seeded and successfully harvested, most of them. Most of our work is linked with variety trials. The regional variety trial, the data which you see in Alberta Seed Guide for wheat, canola, peas, barley, oat, triticale, and everything. So if you open the Alberta Seed Guide, all the tables, we are the one of the data provider from this zone for all these crops. So that's like the biggest component for our research. Okay.
Well, you better run.
Oh, sorry. I'll try and catch that next time for you.
And we do a lot of agronomy trial with support from other commission, crop commissions, and with industry support too. So in 2021, we have about 2,800 research plots seeded last year, and we might be a little bit more in 2022. So with COVID, we didn't stop at all. Our research and projects were going as usual. We were working mostly outside. We restricted, indoor access to most of the stuff, unless, and we rented another bay to keep that distance between and the work can flow. So that was something we were proud of doing, even with the restriction, and we did successfully. We are getting good support from all the crop commission. This slide just says we are working with Alberta Wheat Commission. The next one, we are working on Alberta Pulse and Alberta Prairie Oat Grower Association. We are working with them from last 7 years on a project. And the project need and priorities do change from the commission mandate. Every year when they have a meeting, they see like what is the most important thing they want to focus on, and we change and tweak our project and demonstration accordingly. So if you go next slide, that's with the prairie oat grow one, next one. And on the forest side, we do crop and forest as well as some soil and health and environment work too. So on the forest side, we also had a big program. Last year we had 2 sites for regional silage trial with about 40 varieties of barley or triticale wheat in each of those. And about 50 treatment where we have cereal pea mixture, and alternate forage annual cereal mix. And we also have some perennial forage trial running for 3 years from 2020 to 22 to 2022. That will be like this year will be the last year. So we got this funding from RDR to do the trial work, and so RDR has been very helpful in supporting our research program. We got about 8 or 10 projects right now with the RDR funding, which is we are working now, and we are planning to work from year onwards. And this one cool project which is ending this year again is RDR, and we were looking on some of the impact of hydrated lime and on the clubroot infected field. So we know that field was highly clubroot infected. The spore loads were in million spore per gram of soil, and we applied that different sources of hydrated lime. And if you see the picture here, this is the same day that we pulled the plant around August first week, and you can see the control and with the 100% hydrated lime, the difference is visible, like a dead plant versus little green plant.
Did you say 1 million spores per gram of soil?
Million spore per gram of soil.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so in that level, it's practically is not advisable to grow a canola crop at least once in either your rotation has to be 1 in 5 years. If in 1 in 5 years you can try, because spore will still there, but if you have a little dry condition like last year we had, you might be okay. If you have too wet condition and that much of spore load, around August all the plant will look like the top one, and there will be no pod. The bush in that trial, even with the hydrated lime, if you see the yield check was like 100, and we were able to see the difference of 87%. But if you see the actual bushel, what we got, it was like the control has about 16 bushel canola. So with hydrated lime, you got about, from 16 you add another 80%, it'll be about 25, 26. And so still, even though like last year was not an ideal with the extra other factor in the role, if you have good moisture and not too moist situation in the later, and the higher spots will have some high yield, the lower spot will have low yield. Usually this clubroot spore tends to stay in the lower portion of your field and entrance of the field. So with this project we are trying to suggest the farmer where if you have the known low spots, where you go and do the soil sampling. It is expensive soil sampling, so just do those low spots, check if you have the canola spore load building up, and use a patch management like hydrated lime is very expensive. It's about 125 ton per acre, so you don't want to put like whole farm on it, but if you have those low spots, go about ton per acre rate and apply that hydrated lime. You at least kill about 70-80% of the spore, and then you add 3 year in rotation, and or at least you are trying to reduce the spread of your problem to the rest of the field. So,
And it's pretty obvious in some of these areas. You can pull some roots and you can see the great big clumps on the roots. In this area, we're dealing with the worst pathotype of canola that is known to man so far, 5X, and that's in the West Lock County area. So if we can show this sort of difference on 5X compared to some of the less virulent strains elsewhere, boy, we're onto something. So the patch management concept of putting a lot of lime where you need it and not so much where you don't might have a lot of play here in Fort Samuel.
yeah, and as another add, like this is the research, so we didn't use the clubroot resistant variety. If you use a clubroot resistant variety, you add another 20-30% on yield, then use these tools to kind of get at least economical crop out. We are also working with producers with on a large scale project. Last year we had our 160 acre a corn field seeded with intercropping, where we had if you see this layout, I want to show like a row of corn in between. So each corn row was 30 inches separated in 30-inch row spacing, farmer came and seeded with his air drill another 2 row of the intercropping crop. So last year we tried some pea and polyculture of sunflower, harry wedge, and you name anything. So 16 different cocktail mix kind of thing. And we want to see like if we seed that way, will that impact corn yield? So there was no impact on corn yield at all. Monocrop corn yielded as much as when you seeded with the intercropping.
So you seeded them together? So it was a diverse, very, very diverse plant?
Absolutely. So there's a so recipe to do this is you go and seed corn first. When you will go first and seed corn at usually at before end of 20th of May, and then when the corn is 2 to 4 leaf stage, you go and put your first pass of herbicide, clean the field, kind of, and then second week of June is an ideal time to go and seed this intercropping in between. So they don't grow too much. And this farmer want to, get it for green swath grazing.
Okay.
So, but if you want to take grain, we could have done with other crop, not corn. Corn we don't get up to the grain here, but the idea was to, because corn is a high energy crop, to supplement you would need some protein component with it. So we thought, okay, why don't we go peas, and then you have a balanced diet of your own. So we played the same idea last on a small plot, and it did good. So we kind of multiply, use that information to the large scale and did it on 160 acre. Farmer is still happy. He want to try again, even though our peas were, you can see here like 2 ton biomass, but they were kind of lodged.
Okay.
Because we didn't have, there was a patch of, from June 15th till July 10th, we didn't have any rain, and so so the slow growth was slowed. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the idea was, okay, the peas will go and entangle on the corn and they will stand better. Mm-hmm. So overall, this one, we didn't have that success as a pea. If you are going and cutting peas after that, it will not come in your, unless you are doing a standing grazing thing, then cattle can use the layover peas on the ground, but otherwise it was not that. Yeah, for the polyculture we have sunflower and some of the high height crops, so it was a little better than peas. So we this year we are trying same thing but using a faba bean instead, so that see like how and we did the lab analysis on the quality, and that came quite good. Okay, so next one. And if you click next one, and this is the video I want to show here. So we have half a pasture where we have 10 contributors.
A very big challenge for us as ranchers is to manage the ever-shrinking land base that's available to us in a way that maintains healthy, productive, and sustainable pastures. While there's a ton of information available on land management and the effects that rotational grazing can have on a pasture and the soil beneath it, it can be really hard to visualize what that might look like on our own land base without actually being able to see it in action. There are so many different ways to implement a rotational grazing setup. Everything from what cell design we decide to use, to what type of a water system we invest in, to how the animals are going to even get to that water, to the types of fencing, and even how often we move are going to be impacted by the characteristics of each unique land base, how much time we have, and how much money we have available. Because there's so many factors to consider, the board of directors at Gateway Research Organization decided a few years ago to implement a herd management demonstration at the pasture the Grow has been running since 1979. In 2019, we started working on redesigning our fencing layout and water system. If you head out to the heifer pasture today, you will see 6 different cell designs. We have 4 paddocks in a wagon wheel or pie system with water coming from a well in the center. Another 4 paddocks in a square cell center system, with water being gravity fed from a tank up on the top of a hill to a trough in the middle of 4 paddocks. 4 other paddocks are also square, but with a single alley system connecting them and giving the cattle access to a second trough that is fed by the same tank on top of the hill. We then have 3 long rectangular paddocks, also on a 1 alley system, where the animals are also watered from the second trough. Now, to be really different, and because we all love those gorgeous fence line photos, we have a rectangular mob grazing paddock for strip grazing, or what is known as high intensity or AMP grazing. In this paddock, we graze the animals a small strip at a time using temporary electric fence that we move every couple of hours throughout the course of a day or two. This paddock is set up right next to another rectangular paddock that we continuously graze all season with 5 animals. All of these paddocks are 10 acres each and watered by either a well or through the gravity flow system that runs the 2 troughs. In October of 2020, we took soil samples from the different systems in order to monitor not just what's happening above ground, but below ground as well as we move the animals in these different ways. There's so much more that can be said about the pros and cons of each system, and we will be talking about those in future videos. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, and you can see more about what the Grow Heifer Pasture project is up to, what we've been doing, and our results. A very big challenge.
Can you hear me? Thank you. Yeah, so this was just the video. We made it just to, kind of glimpse on the project. We were long-term, and we have contributor who bring the heifers every year. Grow don't own any animal. We just have the leased land from long-term. So when I joined, we didn't have any project going on, so we thought how best we can use this pasture land. So we are trying to set up as an educational setup where you have different type of watering system, different type of fencing system, different type of cell design, and then impact of those each practices on, overall grass utilization, soil health, and economics of the overall each management. Because mob grazing looks awesome as a productivity of the pasture, but then you have to add on the labor component to move those animals every half a day. And then suddenly your economics will be, either you have to tweak something, number of animal you have to increase and see how well you can do. So we are working on that project, is ongoing, and that is not funded project, but this is something we rely on money from the government and municipal support. And from the industry, we got about 18-20 trial on agronomic practices, chemical seed treatment, fertilizer, herbicide, and that all these, I mentioned 3 of these top companies because we were working on more than 3 or 4 trials with them in last 3 or 4 years. So the money from these industry trial is basically helps us to get that matching component for applying the other grant. And just a quick other note, apart from crop and livestock, we have also working on soil health and other part, and we have Jay Bayer today. He will talk on one of the project. I think, updated you guys when we were working on this project 3 or 4 years ago when it was on proposal stage, and the Woodland County did supported the idea, and I would like to thank you that we finally are trying to achieve something here.
So what I'm doing as a soil conservation analyst is trying to find ways of ensuring that the marginal land that we have so much of up here in Woodlands as well as Barhead and everywhere else produces as much as it possibly can under the circumstances. And by and large, what we're finding when we look at field-to-field comparisons of economics to soil classification in the lower 4 to 7, whether it's Canada Land Inventory or LSRS type of economic additions to the system, is that it's more important as to what you do rather than the type of soil you've got. We're certainly looking at soil improvements on pastures like Sandeep was talking about, the heifer pasture. We're able to look at different grazing systems and what they're doing to the soil. We are seeing some differences. Next year we'll probably tell the tale as to how significant those differences really are. So we can slide on to the next slide. There's about a dozen areas that I'm looking at on a variety of soil conservation initiatives, all of which will have implications for this area, some of which are actually occurring in this area as well. So there's a slug of things going on, and everything from humate to the various soil amendments, pest observations happening here in Woodlands, and all sorts of different things going on. So there's a lot of activity. Thank you. One of the examples of things that we do is Part of our pest evaluation system is the Spornado system acting as a predictive indicator of Fusarium and Sclerotinia. We have a disc that is sort of flipped around in the wind, whatever direction the wind's blowing, and we get the disc to trap spores of Fusarium or Sclerotinia, and we're seeing how close to an adaptation of the actual spores going through compares to what we see in the field in the end. And with the dryness of the year, of course, it wasn't a big year for either Fusarium or Sclerotinia, but it certainly would have been a good indication. And of course, you can't predict the weather, so we do what we can with what we've got, and this was one of those where we will continue to work with Spornado. There was a big push from Barrhead County to help us to do this sort of thing, and we're very pleased with their support. It was just the nature of the year that showed us gotta keep working. Wheat midge survey done through Woodlands in this area around Fort Assiniboine, as well as a number of other counties. We'll be doing some canola sweeping in the counties as well. Diamondback moth survey already started this year, but of course there's not even any canola planted, so nothing growing. And I put our data in with everybody else's that shows that there just aren't any diamondback moths coming to the traps yet. We'll see what happens in time. I suspect that if it's already mid-May and we aren't seeing any, that it'll be a low time for diamondback. Birth is still up in the air, and we do pea leaf weevil in a couple of counties as a predictor of what happens in the rest of the counties as well. So that's part of what we do as a soil conservation analyst. Sandy, did you want to carry on with the education component?
Yeah, last year we also started working with some of the educational group, like the colleges, university, and even local school at Westlock. Aim was to just to educate our young folks on what's going on the agriculture stuff. And like for example, we had a class from Crop Science 101, and we had about 8 to 10 students, and some of them haven't seen any canola before. So, just to give them an idea what a large-scale agriculture look like and what are the things important right now in agriculture. So that was on high level. Then we also working with Grant McEwen University on some of the sustainability project. Jay was helping to design, not design, I would say, just helping a curriculum on the literature review on all these sustainability initiative that McEwen was interested in. And we maybe will in future will look on to add some field component on that kind of research, but right now this was last winter initiative, and we basically worked on literature review, but we'll see if the literature review followed by a field work in summer will kind of help the course coordinator to get some value out for the student, and they will also have a hands-on experience to do some things. So when the COVID came, we we have to shift our extension effort, and as you all were doing some Zoom meetings, so you are familiar how popular Zoom and all these virtual networking option became. And with that, we also started making these videos on YouTube. Like our first video was how to use Zoom for the producer. And then we right now we have about 55 different videos on all small, about 8 to 10 minute topics. Most of them are relevant to our problems in the area. So if you haven't seen anything, please do search Gateway Research in YouTube and look at some of those videos. And on the networking side, we have been very successful with a couple of networking sessions. So one thing we thought is missing in that COVID time was when people go to conference, after conference they want to mingle and talk each other and share the idea between each other. With a lot of other groups started to doing webinar and other information. So that was the component I thought we have lots, like we have option of webinar, but the component of networking among each other was missing. So we started something, Wednesday night networking session, every Wednesday, 6 p.m. A simple topic on livestock and regenerative side of agriculture, and then followed by open discussion of for like 15-20 minutes. Just someone will introduce the topic, and there will be a guest speaker who will basically answer the question and kind of keep the flow, because otherwise everyone will start speaking at one time. So, and it worked quite well. We have a attendance of 70 to even 280 in some of those sessions, and it was well received. And just to keep that information for a long time, we kind of made the podcast from that sessions, like whichever the relevant information can be used and you can hear later. We keep it as a podcast form, so you can, farmers or anyone who want to have time later can download and listen at their own pace. So with that success, board director also felt like we should start something on crop side too. So this March, we started a Thursday crop talk, which is ongoing right now. The Wednesday night networking usually run from October to March in the winter time, and Thursday crop talk we are planning to keep it whole year. Right now we just started like 3 of the session on different crop topics, and idea is we'll go with the growing season. Like before seeding, you should worry about seed treatment. So the last one we had was about seed treatment, and the first one was about some marketing, like what will be the market update. So we have a guest speaker who talk about the topic, and then it's open for the and question and answer interactive session, and we keep the podcast too. So this will be every Thursday. If you want to join in, please register through your email once on our website, and you will get the reminder automatically every Thursday. We don't send too much reminder email so that you don't block us. But if you register one time, we try to send you reminder the same Thursday, where a day before, as a reminder that next Thursday, tomorrow will be this topic, and you join it. And it's you join. You want to leave early, you can leave early. If you just want to hear, you can mute and hear. It's up to you. And if you join and you know the topic and you want to know more, contribute more, that's most welcome. Always is more conversation is better. Okay, for next few slides, I will just kind of quickly glance here. So we are working with Ardnar, as mentioned before. We got about 8 different project funded. So this was one, regenerative agriculture knowledge translation and transfer for grassroots forage livestock producer. This was a grant, mostly on the extension side, which we are using for that Wednesday night networking sessions. Okay, the next one. Then we are working with the University of Alberta with a trial on a crop rotation and impact of this humulite. Humulite is a naturally mined from southern Alberta. There's a Westmore mining company. They have a big depot of this humulite, and the most important component on this the product is humic acid, which is shown to have some impact on microbial, how you say it?
The microbial population.
Yeah.
And whatnot. It's like coal that didn't quite make coal. It's a very crumbly coal-like product that is supposed to really impact the soil biome.
Yeah. So we are working on something just to see like what rate will be good enough to go along with. Some of the rate, like 800 pounds per acre, is insane. It's not gonna be economical, but we are thinking if you see a response in 100 pounds acre, that should be something, a more economical and practical point of view. Okay. And then we are working on some of other liming, not liming, I'll say, soil amendment sources such as egg lime, wood ash, sugar beet lime, compost, and biochar combination, and manure, and other things. So, and one of other project last year we got involved again with the Ardnar funding was fall rye, winter cereal, seeded in different stubble type. What will be impact on grain and forage if you want to try two crops. You seed some crop in fall and then harvest early next spring and then seed another one. Basically, the idea was like, will that theoretical idea will work in our area to have two crop, in two feed crop in a year. So that was last year was the first year on the project. We had the stuff seeded. Our winter was good, but spring is not behaving as well. So we are seeing a lot more spring thaw kill now. So a problem with the winter cereals are usually if you don't have that nice spring to follow, they don't do well. So in our area we have enough snow that we don't worry about snow or winter kill because there is a big sheet of snow covering the plant and it kind of save the plant. But coming to the spring when things start to thaw and they again go for a freezing point, that's is more detrimental to the plant, and we have seen an extensive amount of killing right now in the field. The other project we are working is again on rooted cover crop and seeing some soil health and benefit on yield. Okay, next. This project I am a little bit more excited to talk about. We are working on perennial cereal grain along with some legume options. And last week we got funding for this trial to go ahead. So we'll go and seed this trial in 6 different locations in Alberta and see how these perennial cereal grain, if they are viable to even grow in Alberta, and if they are viable, how good they do. So we have a perennial cereal rye is one which was breeded in Lethbridge. It's a good looking rye crop. It's very winter hardy. Only problem it has is it tend to go with ergot if we have too much moist situation. Last year crop was okay. We didn't have like that amount of moisture later, so no ergot. But in 2019 we saw a lot more ergot problem in that rye. So we are thinking if we mix with legume, how that disease pressure will be.
And the picture associated with this looks a little weird, but I'll explain it to you very briefly. We were told that what you see above, you should also see below in the soil. We dug 8 feet down into the dirt beside the plot here, and we were finding perennial cereal rye roots as deep as 8 feet down. So it's a great way to store carbon, and we're looking very forward to seeing what happens. This was only its second year of growth, and we're already seeing those roots down there. Very exciting to see that sort of a thing at a large scale. So it was even more exciting to see that we were able to try this in 6 different locations in the province.
Where was that?
This was right here in just south of Westlock.
On Highway 44, I think we have a little trial standing.
There's still a little bit up like that. This was taken in a very cold day in November, I think. But like about 3 or 4 miles south of Westlock. So we've got some real enthusiasm right across the province now to try some of these that were developed in Lethbridge. The wheat, the Kernza wheat, was developed in the States Land Institute. A little bit more perhaps need to have a local adaptation of the Kernza perennial wheat. Didn't get quite as heavy in the bushels or the bushel weight, but nonetheless it has more application down the road. So very excited about this as a trial.
And other thing is like if you can seed these perennial cereal once and then 3 year at least you can get the grain and forage because they are dual purpose, breeded for the dual purpose. So the other component we are looking on the trial and as we are working on Lethbridge site and Fort McKenzie site too, we want to see like if you want to go and get the grain and leave the forage regrowth for the winter grazing is the good opportunity to use the dual purpose, or you go and cut first and then leave the secondary growth for the grain. So in southern Alberta or like the Land Institute is out of
Iowa or
somewhere in US. So they think because they have a little longer growing season in the fall, their suggestion was you can go and have the early spring growth cut for the green feed and then, let it grow for the grain later. But for our area, I think we will be better off first to take grain and then leave the secondary growth for the winter grazing. So ideally, if you can grow these things along with alfalfa, then you have two components grown in the same field, and it's an ideal.
So, what is the, if it's perennial, how many years?
For the wheat, they told it's 5 year, at least, it will be a good crop. But as Jay mentioned, right now the breeder were only able to breed that perennial wheat seed 1/5 of the normal wheat seed. So it still need a lot more breeding work. But it's no disease problem, and it grows good, and it has very high root growth underneath.
So that it's something that would have a purpose where for drought tolerance.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Especially with those roots going all the way down to
Yeah.
China. Boy, that's something that has a lot of implications. And we were very pleased with the regrowth, with the second and third year sort of growth. We're seeing populations that may not be terribly high compared to an annual field, but it tillers so well that the results we were getting yield-wise, and nothing to sneeze at. So,
And
Well,
really
and then
exciting.
there's the consideration of the cost of putting that crop in. I mean, it has huge potential with the energy system that we have right now, so.
100%, absolutely. So
So
it's
that's
quite
why,
exciting.
on the same note, we are working with, how to seed with legume, so we can cut down on that fertilizer, and legume can provide the nitrogen which is needed in second and third year. So basically, no fertilizer at all in second and third year, and use the compound soil interactions and the crop interactions to feed each other.
So what would you use like for fixing nitrogen?
So right now, in this trial, we are putting clover, alfalfa, and sandfoin, and I think there's one more legume we have.
Okay.
So maybe we'll be able to put all four together, but when we put like all cocktail kind of project, then we are working with University of Alberta professor too. He didn't like idea to put like too many things in one trial. He says, no, let's try one by one comparison, and then we'll see which one works best, and then we can play
So
around.
you're doing this in how many different areas?
6 different locations.
So in other words, the diversity that you would put in there, you could change that based on the areas.
Areas what we need, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right now, because they want to, for scientific publication, they need all same,
Yeah.
done like 6 locations, so
Yeah.
that's the main. And we are working with couple of other group, especially these are the 2 events we are planning right now. One is Organic Alberta and Gateway Research. We will be organizing a field day, July 8th and 9th, Heritage Park, Stony Plain. The field day component will be at Grow Westlock, and the seminar or trade show booth will be at the Stony Plain the next day. So that is some good event if you want to save the date, July 8th, 9th. Registration will open first week of.
And that would be a great opportunity to see the perennial cereals as well, because that's going to be on the tour.
Yeah.
And we'll have some updated information as well as looking at the 2022 germination.
Could you just restate what that yield was on the perennial?
So perennial rye last year yielded about 46 bushel per acre. Perennial wheat was 18 bushel per acre. And we had the spring wheat too at that location. And when we were digging up the root, we thought, okay, let's dig the root for the spring wheat and this perennial wheat. Spring wheat roots were also deep, about 2.5 to 3 feet even. You can see that some root here going in. And the yield was, because that site is not like, it's a low pH, not the ideal site, it's a marginal land. We got about 28 bushel of spring wheat last year.
Huh.
And the bushel weight on the rye was acceptable. It's like any other rye. The wheat was a little lighter.
Okay.
I would say we need a little bit more work on the breeding side of the wheat for now, but we just want to see like if the system can work here or not. And if you're right, if you just want to aim it for just for the, you know, feed market, then it was a lot of growth. It do even with the that much of dryness last year, we had about 4 feet high wheat crop. So that's one component like what you want to use for your,
Looked like a great start.
yeah.
Is that being utilized anywhere in the world?
The Land Institute from Iowa, they made it, and I think it's a patented one. But there's a niche market to make those beer, a specialized beer from Carenja. You Google like Carenja and beer, I think it will pop up. That's one thing I saw, and some of the small food market where they want to see, because it can be grown organically. It's you know, a deep rooted system, kind of find its own nutrient. So, or holistic guys, like they want to brand this as something of, you know, future.
Just
And
be,
if you look at the field when it's in full growth, there's no reason to be looking even at herbicides because it's that thick.
Yeah.
So it can fit well into the organic market.
mhm.
I believe there was some kinds of bread made at some point in time, but commercialized, not yet. The rye could easily just fit into any typical rye system, organic or otherwise.
Be interesting to try and put numbers behind and quantify it from a food value per carbon imprint or carbon footprint, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be really interesting to see what that number is.
Good suggestion. I think we're gonna, because we are just, you know, building up the trial. We will see that will be the last trial seeded this year, because first year will be kind of establishment year, and I don't want to seed too early. And if we have long fall, we'll have to go and cut it. So we want to take it as long as, and you know, do not have much first growth for this year. The other conference we are working, I think West Central might have mentioned too. This is a conference with all the Applied Research Association. We organize every 2 years. So last year was 2020 was kind of cancelled because of COVID. So this December 13, 14, 15 we will have this conference again. 3 days, Doubletree, Hilton, Edmonton West, and it's a good conference for anything you want to know for soil health and grazing and livestock sites. So usually very well received, sells out within 1 month when we start registration. So registration for this one will open in July first week. Hey, I want to thank my team. Like we have 5 full-time staff right now working for Grow, and we have 3 summer students to keep the plot work nice and clean and keep the work high quality. And I want to thank my board of director. We have 10 board of director last year, and we still have 1 vacant position which will be filling soon, I guess. But yeah, the board of director has been very instrumental in all the things what we are doing, and they are giving constant inputs on things which matter most to the producers. So kudos to them. We also got lucky to get this funding from Western Grain Research Foundation last year to have this nice shiny with cab and AC combine, which the previous combine we used to have person has to run along and get the sample collected. When we harvest a plot, we stop, take the sample and change. The weighing system we thought will help us, like it will weigh as you go and we don't have to even weigh it. That didn't work because when combine was working, the movement was so much that the accuracy as we need for research was more than 5%. So finally we are just doing the same thing what manual combine was doing, but with more facility, I will say, and no dust, basically sample very nice and clean. And last, before I go, I guess this is the ask for you guys today. We would love your support. Woodland County was a supporter, and Don can tell history, I guess. We would like, if you want to support our program, we would like to have 5,000 per as a core support for our program. I just did a little math, like $15 per farm per year in the county. And what value we will bring, roughly your $1 will be kind of matched with $30 from other projects and industry funding and the government dollar to do the research work what we are doing right now. And the main thing, definitely we need your that 5,000 as a core support, because that 5,000 we can apply for RDAR. Anything you apply, they need a 50% matching. So that matching component is always tricky with industry, because if you want to involve them in the matching, they will want to have control on data, and that's something you have to weigh in or weigh out. And last thing, if you have something in mind, like for example, what Jay mentioned about that Spornado project, we were talking to Barrett County, they thought we want to see like how the fusarium and sclerotinia problem is creeping up in county. And that discussion was in 2018 when we were super wet and 3 year in row, and disease pressure for fusarium was building up. In 2019, we kind of made a small project out of that, from this little more funding from Barrett County, and then got that information. And so example was like, if you want to see some other project which is similar to that, we can have conversation, and we can build a project out of it which will help you and us both. And this is of course core supporter for 2021. Major funder is still Alberta government and RDAR, and we get all the funding from the Crop Commission, wheat, barley, canola, pulse, and prairie oat growth. And last slide. I want to thank all the supporters, especially farmers, and we are working with Greg Thompson and Tom Olson from mainly in the county of Fort Assiniboine. All the crop and seed grower around the area are very supportive to what Grow is doing from lately, and we get support from all the agriculture related businesses in the West Log Barhead area. So I want to thank you them too. And if you have more question, I know we are already late here, but
You've been most generous with your time, and we thank you for that.
No, thank you for all of that information. Very interesting stuff going on. I sat on the Pembina Forge board 30 years ago when Alan Hall and Ken Voptinsky and those guys were there. And then I think just after that it was Grow.
yeah, 1994.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crop
It
component
changed,
was added.
so.
And,
But I see you guys are still doing the good work. One of the things that I would ask is just, have you at all made these presentations, because this is very holistically oriented research that you're doing, a lot of it. Because you're trying to figure out, how some of these things work better for the different dynamics. So I don't know if you've asked any of those organizations to participate or have given presentations of what you're doing.
Yeah, no, we are involved with we are talking with Organic Alberta, Young Agrarian.
Yeah.
We always have some field days and tour where they come and work with us, and mainly we just had some of the combined extension event together. We even worked with cows and fish last year. So West Central, we also work with a couple of projects, because we do quite a few things which common, and we have the area which is also overlapping and some of the membership. So our aim is to work all together and see if how we can contribute to the positive side, not on like competition on each other.
We do our darndest to try and take a holistic approach so we can see what it actually means to the farmer in its entirety. So we look at the economics as well in
Yeah.
many of these projects,
Yeah.
and that's critically important.
Yeah. And that's what mainly I'm interested in, like economics, if it,
Yeah,
because if idea can be awesome, but if it don't pay you, then nobody will take it.
That's just fun.
yeah. So is there any more questions or comments from?
If you do have any questions, this doesn't have to be the end of it. Sandeep's got his cards out, I'll throw some of mine too. Feel free to contact us at any time.
Yeah, and other thing I forgot to mention, like if anyone need any, we also have a program where we provide support to the producer. So we have 4 extension specialists on call. And if they call for any of the assistant for the livestock and crop side, agronomy related question, you can give a call to our office and we'll, then those consultant will not charge you, you know, the Barry MCO grant last week,
Neil Chapman.
Bill Chapman and Neil.
Oh, yeah, Watley.
Neil. So we have 4 or 5 different extension person on call. If you want, give a call to us or directly to them and mention like you are a group member, and they will just bill us, and it will be a free service to you, all the producers around area. So that's something, we have 1 year of funding for that project, so we haven't used as much as we should have been because of COVID. We didn't have that extension ability, and people still like to see each other and talk.
Yep.
It's a thing.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys very much for giving us that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I can make a motion to accept the Gateway Research Organization presentation as information.
Okay. Would there be any more discussion on that? No? Call the question? All in favor? Carried?
Just, I didn't wanna, delay this, but were you guys aware of, perennial crops like that?
We're aware of perennial crops, but not to the degree of what he was telling us. Like, that's pretty remarkable stuff that they're doing there.
Not
Like
something that
that's-
would work here.
No,
I was not aware of that.
no, but I think what they're doing is they're trying to extend that, because what he was saying was that they're doing actually breeding programs to try
Yeah.
to figure this
Yeah.
stuff out, and that really makes a lot of sense to me.
Think of that for livestock producers that could take the wheat off, say, and then graze it after.
Right.
Like, that's utilizing your land fairly well here.
Yep.
And I mean, if you don't need fertilizer and you don't have to reseed, the input cost is,
Well, and the
Oh.
point that you made about the carbon sequestering, like, that's another piece of that puzzle, which is kinda interesting. Yeah, this is
No
good stuff.
fertilizer in year 2 and 3. It's
Yep.
pretty substantial
So-
cost savings,
Um,
even if your yield's a little lower.
Don has informed me that, we made a motion that we maybe shouldn't have made. Because we didn't have in the budget anything for, what we said for West Central to figure out, so we may have to,
Pot's a lot smaller.
Well, if I could clarify.
yeah.
In previous years, we had $5,000 budget in there, but we cut that out because they weren't doing the plots and stuff any longer. So for this year, we had cut that out of the budget. So we do have $1,500 in there we could share, but I don't know if that's gonna mean revenue value to them, but.
So what is our relationship with Grow right now? Are we a member?
Well, no, I don't
Or-
believe we're members, but we are, like I work with them and if they need to find research sites.
Oh, okay,
Like the one up at,
Greg's.
Greg Thompson, they're doing I guess a herbicide control for, spruce trees.
oh,
there.
okay,
And so they were, looking for a site and
Oh.
we found them a site. So that's kind of the partnership that we've had.
okay,
If they need to find someone to partner with, like a producer, then usually I have an idea of what people are doing in the area, so I can kind of direct them
okay.
towards them. So that's kind of what our partnership has been in the past. We did, like Sandeep mentioned, we had supported them in the past as well, when our budget wasn't quite so tight. So,
Well, and I think this is something for us, go ahead, Al.
I think you were probably walking all that. What I'm thinking is if we don't have money this year,
Yeah,
you know, if we would have been, if this presentation would have been done to us or given to us prior to budget time, so, I mean, what I'm sensing is that there's a lot of, support for this around the table, and if we can't support them this year, let's consider it for next year.
yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
And I mean, they must run into this because, I mean, it's May, right? And
Yep.
budget's been set.
Well, and I'm sure they deal with the municipalities, I'm sure
Yeah.
they're aware of that, so
Yeah.
I think maybe that's what we should do, is just make that motion be, or make a motion that we consider some of these things now in our next year's budget
Yeah.
for 2022.
What was our previous motion? What did we actually say?
To forward some funds.
Administration to forward funding from 2022 demonstration program budget to West Central Forage Association.
Okay, so we made that motion, but there is no demonstration budget, so
for that.
it's kind of moot anyway.
so we could just rescind that motion.
Sure.
Yeah.
completely. And I don't know if you wanna have a motion to put it into the 2023 budget, or just keep it in.
I think we
for
should
20.
keep it, I think we should have a motion that says
I
that,
do
that
too.
we recommend to, because that would be something that council would want
Yeah.
to see, right?
Yeah.
So,
For both of those
for both of
organizations.
those, yeah.
Sure, so I can make that motion that the Ag Services Board recommend the, what's the name of this? West Central Forage Association and Grow be put into budget consideration for 2023.
Yeah. Any more discussion on that motion? All in favor? Good. I think that covers it. That'll cover us.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll also need a motion to rescind.
Oh, yeah, we would need a motion. Who made that motion? That was,
That was
would
Faith.
you make that motion to rescind that?
it to rescind it.
Okay. All in favor of that? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right,
Should've really checked those out.
so is there any unfinished business?
We got enough new business, I don't think we
Okay.
can afford any unfinished.
Okay, let's go to 6.1. Dawn, you're up.
Okay. So, excuse me, we didn't receive, I pulled it off the Provincial Ag Service Board website, the resolutions, responses and grading. So this is from the 2022, the years right, for the provincial conference, all the resolutions that were presented there. So they have received responses from all the resolutions and the departments that they sent the resolutions to. So those are listed in your package, and what the process is it's put out to all the ag service boards to provide feedback to the provincial committee as to whether or not we agree with the responses that are received. So it's either agree or accept in principle, it's or incomplete or unsatisfactory. So the qualifiers for all of that are listed on page, what page is that?
46, I think.
46.
Yeah, bottom page.
Yeah, so, there's kind of that little table that we've put together in your package, so it's actually page 240, I guess it would be. Did you read your package?
Yeah, it kicked me out, so it's just loading again.
Oh, you're still connected?
Yeah, I'm still connected. It just,
So, I guess the definition of the accept response, that's pretty much, it meets the expectations of what we thought that resolution should come to. Accepting in principle, it's addressing the issues, it's not completely, not completely doing what we thought, but there is an indication that further, action is going to be taken. So that's the accepted in principle. Incomplete, obviously, it doesn't address the issues that we that is in the resolution, and then unsatisfactory pretty self-explanatory, it doesn't present that at all. So, we are asked to get our responses back by June 30th. I don't know if you want to go through them quickly and see what we want to have. I kind of went through and did what my take would be on it, so.
If I could just comment on this, like, I don't see any response that says, yeah, we're gonna do that, thanks for bringing that to our attention, didn't know about it. So to me, the vanilla response is just accept them all in principle.
And in fact, out of the 6, I put 4 accept in principles.
Sure.
The one I did say accept was the ungulate one, because it did address the issue. Like they were looking for some kind of programs that were available to producers, and they did say that, like, basically what the gentleman told us is what the response was. So they did essentially.
Yeah, and if you're comfortable with that, I'm comfortable too.
And then the natural gas one I put unsatisfactory because it was kind of like, yeah, well, the provincial government doesn't agree with the federal government, but there's nothing we really can do. And then the federal government response was not really there either.
Yeah.
So that was my thought. I don't know if you guys got any other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the feedback's important. It's, to me, that you're caught up between 2 levels of government that I don't think we're gonna provide any type of leverage on that, but it doesn't hurt to say, hey, we're not satisfied with it either.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with your responses.
Yeah.
All right, I will do those up and I will send them back to the provincial committee executive assistant.
So what the RFD is asking is to forward the resolution grading sheet back to the provincial committee, but on page 46, it's not completed, so do we just direct you to fill out as per the conversation, per discussion?
Yeah, I would just fill that out based on our conversation.
Okay.
And then forward that in, so.
Okay.
It would still be essentially the same, response
Sure.
or motion, I guess it would be the same motion for that, because I will be basically sending that back based on what we talked about.
Okay, so do you want, as per discussion added to that RFD?
Sure.
Okay, so I'd make a motion that the Ag Service Board forward the 2022 resolution grading sheet as per conversation to the ASB Provincial Committee for review.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay. Okay, Canadian Ag Partnership Program. That's the Guelph one, right?
Yes. So with this one, when we had the webinar with the Alberta Agriculture Assistant Deputy Minister, he mentioned that there is, they have plans for the new program coming forward, like the new grant programs. They're called CAP, so it's Canada Agriculture Partnership Program. So they have put together for the next series of grants, they have their guiding principles, priorities, and focus for what areas. So this is just it's going to be coming into play in 2023. They're still in the last year of their granting program. So these programs, you have to have your environmental farm plan to take part in, and then it's just different programs that they have grants available to producers to partake in. So some of them this go round, there were like technology advances. You could get grain bin monitoring devices to implement into your system. There was some with regard to tech for GPS systems, I believe, that you could put onto your equipment. variety, there's always a whole bunch of different things that they try to address.
They're doing
So-
some stuff with drone
Yeah, drone work was
work
another.
was one of them too.
Yeah.
I read.
Yeah, exactly. So they, so this is what their focus is going to be from 2023 to 28. They haven't said exactly what areas, like what the grants are going to entail. They won't release that until just prior to the opening of those grant programs. So, but like I said, this is something that producers can take advantage of if they have the environmental farm plan completed for their operation. And that's where we worked with West Central Forage Association to try to get producers getting their environmental farm plans. We did have a workshop planned here, but we had one person registered, so, well, actually, no, I don't think we had any registered. Yeah, so we canceled that, or we didn't cancel it, we postponed it to perhaps the fall, because we thought it wasn't maybe the most ideal timing. So now, with this programming coming out in 2023, I expect if we have an environmental farm plan workshop in the fall, we'll probably get a little more uptake, because we're gonna have this coming up in the next go-round. But this is more or less just information for you to know what's coming out with this program for next year.
Is there any more questions? Could I get a motion then to accept that as information? Devin?
We can make a motion that the Ag Service Board accepts the Canadian Agricultural Partnership Program Guelph Statement as information.
All in favor? It's carried. Okay, now we're gonna squeal on some pigs.
My favorite topic. So, I will choose my words wisely.
Yes.
The government of Alberta on April 5th announced a new wild boar program that would entail a bounty program. So, this
Why?
bounty program, you were in on that call.
Yes, I was in on that call.
Shoy is all I have to say.
Yeah.
So, Peter and I were invited to a meeting, an online meeting with the Assistant Deputy Minister. And their idea was, with this bounty program, is it will help to identify the areas where we have wild boar in Alberta. My question was, what happened to all the other data from the previous 7 years when we did this? And their response was, we don't know anything about that. And I'm like,
I couldn't
holy
believe it.
shite, are you kidding me?
We had resolutions at the Ag Services Board conference, and we had political people there, and I just sat there and went, oh boy.
Don's not
Well,
gonna be
when
happy.
the news release came out, it was a very shocking surprise to me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
huh? Are you kidding me right now? Like, the narrative has been all along that hunting does not help. Hunting makes them more human smart, and it is not effective in controlling them. And then all of a sudden, bam, we've got a bounty program.
We had about 28 million amendments to that
Yeah.
proposal.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it stunned me totally. The good news is the bounty program is only for 1 year. The better news is that we can't participate in it because we're doing the trapping program.
Yeah.
So, and I sent that message out to you guys because I figured
Yeah.
you might be getting phone calls from producers going, well, why aren't you guys involved? So, and I have received a dozen or so phone calls since they've implemented this, of people asking about hunting and how they can be part of the bounty program. I'm like, yeah, you can't, not in Woodlands County. So I had one person that was a little not happy about it, and I think they might have been a producer, and I was like, well, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Like, we are not eligible because we're in this other program. So, but,
He's just
yeah.
probably raising wild pigs for the boar program.
No, it wasn't.
Bounty
It wasn't our
program.
wild. We have one wild boar producer,
No,
and it
it
wasn't
wasn't
him.
him.
No,
Okay, good.
no, it was a lady, and she wasn't happy with my response. So we became friends at the end. But you know,
I've talked to quite a lot of people about this, and lots didn't know that Woodlands County was trapping. And
Yeah.
most that I talked to are fairly educated in wildlife,
Yeah.
and that's the first thing they say. They're like, that's so much better than trying to shoot them. And they're hunters that would love to go shoot these things, and they're like, it's way more effective to trap them. And people seem pretty open.
I was surprised how many people didn't realize we had a problem in the county.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an eye
Same
opener for
with
me,
them,
like,
yeah. People coming in.
I had one phone call on why there wasn't gonna be a bounty, and then my answer was the same. So, because we're trapping them.
It's a pretty easy question to answer. So it's get a lot tougher ones than those kind of
Yeah.
Well,
questions.
and so what do you see as going forward? This is only a one-year program, so from, you know, what we need to do is, you know, support what the Ag Services Board provincially has been doing. And so how do we get that message to the minister at the next Ag Services Board, where we say, hey, you guys gotta get your poop in a group, so that this doesn't happen? Because we could be looking at, you know, them saying, well, you know,
Yeah.
we'll, you know, where's the pressure coming from
Yeah.
to have this bounty reinstated after all the work the services boards did?
Right. So I would think, so what they're doing is they're having a 1-year pilot, I guess you could say again, to determine the effectiveness of the program. So from what I'm hearing, a lot of municipalities are not willing to get into this
Okay.
because they've heard the narrative that hunting is not effective. I did receive a couple of emails yesterday, one from Yellowhead, that it's going to their board, their council today, on recommendation that it's not, that they not participate. Another one at Greenview or Big Lakes,
Okay.
they're also suggesting to the board not to participate. So I think it's kind of a, let's wait and see what happens. Because if they don't get many municipalities participating, it's going to say
Sends a
what
message.
kind of, it will send a message, right?
Yeah.
So we do have our Wild Boar Forum tomorrow night, at which we have Dr. Ryan Brooks speaking. And we had just a brief meeting yesterday online, and he expressed his concern about this program as well. So he might be saying words that I can't say because of our affiliation with the provincial government. I couldn't say publicly, you guys are gone loco, but
Is that what you'd say, Don?
yeah.
You just said it. You just, we're streaming.
Yeah,
You
we're
That's
just said it.
okay.
I have a question.
I would suggest perhaps that they had gone a little off the rail, but
Wow.
that's okay.
I have a question. I'm sure you've told us in the amount of information I've got since becoming a counselor, and maybe it's pushed out of my brain, but the trapping program we're a part of, are we in a contract for that, or are we like does that end next year, and if they want, this goes great for them, they push it on everybody, or does that kind of keep us out of there if we stay in that? I guess is the question.
Yeah, it does. It kind of keeps us out of there. It's not really a contract per se. I guess we did kind of sign an agreement to be part of that program. And it is in conjunction with Alberta Pork and the provincial government. And Alberta Pork actually hires the trappers.
Oh.
And they have provided funding for a good portion of the traps as well. Alberta Agriculture initiated the trapping part and provided funding for those traps, but Alberta Pork has also contributed a lot of money for this. And that's because they are concerned about that interaction between the wild boar and the domestics and how it can affect the domestic population.
Disease transmission.
Exactly, yeah, like if we
chickens
get
right now.
African swine flu in the wild boar population and it cuts into our domestics,
Export market's gone.
done,
Well, that's
yeah.
the pork industry is already
Well,
pretty volatile.
Yeah, they
industry.
struggle a lot, right? So, yeah, when we got when we got Alberta Pork involved, that was huge because that's a big industry partner, right? So,
And they did that through their commission. Yeah.
Maybe we should just make sure that we're actively continuing to engage in the trapping. And I know where you stand with it, obviously, but I think we should all think about that and make sure that that's the direction, or if that is the direction we wanna go rather than.
Well, I
this.
think that's, right now, that's a motion by, we're involved in that program, and we're in that program until it doesn't run anymore.
Yeah, and we are
So-
pretty much committed to
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Perfect, yeah. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a contract ending next year or something like
No,
that.
no, I don't believe there was actually an end date on that contract.
Unless
It's
the pigs
because
are all
this-
gone.
Well, that would be ideal. I would really love to see that, but yeah, no, there was not really an end date
Okay.
per se on that,
Perfect.
that program.
So is there any other questions or anything you want to add yet? Or?
No, I think I've already done
We're
enough
good.
damage.
You already got yourself in trouble. That's good. Keeps us out.
I can make a motion.
But you're supporting me, so it's okay.
We're
Okay,
right
Devin.
behind you.
I'll make a motion that the Agriculture Service Board accepts the wild boar update as information.
All in favor? That's carried. Okay, now we have the VSI report. This is the first quarter report. Where are we at there
So we've spent $5,600,
already?
just over $5,600 in our first quarter, so our balance is still sitting at $20,891.
Sure, not
So
too
we're,
bad.
no, not
Nope.
too bad. We'll be okay.
Okay, I
We're a
see.
little bit up, oh no, actually, we're a little bit down, sorry. If you look at
Yeah, I was
the
just
next
gonna
page, our difference is, negative 3.61, so we are a bit down on
Yeah.
our claims.
Well, the nice thing about it is the program is being used.
It is, and I actually just got a new agreement on my desk this morning,
Oh,
so,
good.
yeah.
Perfect.
We're getting a few new enrollees right now.
Good.
I've been
There's
telling everybody.
175 now. I think there's 175.
Yeah.
So that just tells us that program is of value.
Told so many people about that
Yep.
program.
Anything else? No? Can I have a motion then to accept that as information?
I'll make that motion.
Linda? All in favor? It's carried. All right, Don, your Rural Beautification Awards.
So this is just kind of to get your juices flowing about getting the nominations in. Just over the course of the next few months, just kind of keep an eye out. If you see beautiful yards in the area, let me know. We can go out and get some pictures taken and that kind of stuff. If anybody that you want to have on the nomination list, that way we can get the pictures when their yards are the most beautiful, rather than wait until October when they're less than stellar. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just a reminder that
Keep
we
your eyes
need
open.
input. Yeah, keep your eyes open, and as you're in your travels, there is a nomination form in your package that, and also promote it to other people too, like our area residents, if they have somebody that they'd like to nominate, or they can nominate themselves too.
It's going on the county Facebook page.
Yes, it will. I will be forwarding
Yeah,
that to
that-
Nikita.
That's getting utilized a lot more. There's a lot of people that actually do watch that Facebook page now.
Yes.
Yeah, it
It's the
really
same
is
old
true.
thing, the more people that share it, then however that algorithm changes, right?
Yeah.
If you're not part of the algorithm, and then you become part of the algorithm, you stay there as long as you're
Yeah.
participating in it.
Right.
And that's about as much as I know about the algorithm.
I thought you were a tech expert over
Yeah,
there.
I was like, oh wow.
No,
You can fix
Nice.
this.
I just know that I was looking at refinishing my couch, and I got a whole bunch of ads for leather refinishing through Facebook. It's
Scary.
like, yeah,
How-
really scary.
And you were just thinking about it.
Well, out loud. But
Yeah, I love it. Okay. Anything else on that? All right. Can we have a motion on that, please?
I can make a motion that
Devin?
the Ag Service Board accepts the 2022 Rural Beautification Award report.
All in favor? So carried. And then the Pioneer Awards. Those are coming up.
So similar to the rural beautification awards, we start to think about who in our communities we can nominate. We do have a listing of all the past past recipients in your package as well, so we don't have duplication going on. But yeah, so we would at our next meeting. Okay, if we have a meeting in July, maybe not in July, but at the next meeting in September, we would
should
look
have
at
somebody,
the,
yeah.
yeah, we'll look at having the nominations, so that we can have everything in place, going forward into the budget. We know how many awards we have to get and everything like that, so.
Okay.
Is there anybody in our county that has been, the century, that the 100-year farm family?
There's a bunch probably getting close right now, I bet, because lots moved here in the 20s.
Yeah, we've had people in the past too.
We
that
have had?
gone. Yeah.
Well, that could be, that's a good point, Al. We could be looking at, that generational piece for the Pioneer part too. Cause I know that actually, I think, Glenn Thompson and now the kids are there, they've been here for a long time as well, so, yeah.
So with the Century Farm Award though, they have to apply for that themselves.
Oh, that's how that works? Okay.
Because when I did the application for our farm, so
Oh,
it has
okay.
to be like, you have to have titles to prove that
That's how long
progression.
you've been there.
Yeah. It's not a hard process, it's just a
No.
little bit of digging.
Yep.
So your family is at,
Yeah,
okay.
103 years,
102.
actually 104 years.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
My dad's is really close too,
Yeah,
and his property's changed hands one time in just about 100 years. Just from them to him.
I'm not gonna be around for the 100-year fireplace.
You might be.
It's 60-something now, so.
Even that, honestly,
That's
is
a lot.
huge.
Especially nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Okay, so any more questions? If not, I can have a motion to accept that as information.
Sure.
Al?
I move that the Ag Service Board accept the 2022 Agriculture Pioneer Awards report as information.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Now, the Farm Family Award. That one. There we go. Because we actually nominate a farm family. And
Yes.
We look and we figure out,
Yes. So our last nominees were buyers from Blue Ridge.
yeah.
And I think we have a list of all the past nominees here too. In the package. There is oh no, we don't have. No.
No, you have the form that we have, because this comes down from the government of Alberta. And we're just the ones that,
Yeah, so they allow us to
Choose.
nominate
Yeah.
every second year.
every second year.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
our year is the even years, and then, so they kind of split the municipalities in half. So it would have like 30-some in one year and 30-some in the next year.
Okay,
So that doesn't mean we have to nominate somebody if we don't really know of anyone. So the criteria are on the second page,
Yeah.
which is page 272. And so we're looking for somebody who is active in agriculture, obviously, and there are other criteria like activities in community, as well as maintaining a high standard in their business, promoting agriculture, and being proactive in technologies, and acting as a role model, as well as deserving based on the equal recognition of agriculture and community involvement. So, if you guys know anybody, when do we have to have these?
Don, I didn't get the list. It said also attaches a list of previous award winners. Did anybody get that?
No, it looks like a
No,
list.
that I didn't get either.
We forgot to attach it.
Oh, no.
Could you send that out after,
I
just so
can.
we do have it?
Yes.
Yeah, if you could send that to us, then it gives
Just an
us a
email or-
chance. Because we've got a bit, when is the deadline for this one?
It's
June
coming
30th.
up June 3rd.
June 3rd, so we don't have a lot of time.
I can, if I can find it, I can show you.
June 30th is your deadline.
Is it 30th on that
Yep.
one? Oh, okay,
Yep.
was it earlier than that?
So do we want to maybe set a deadline to make a nomination?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we need to set a deadline so that, so that we can have it, so that Dawn can just forward that.
Maybe how much time, like when, that nomination package, I see the MLA and the MP need to be, they need to sign it? Is that
No, they don't need to sign it. We just need to identify them because
Okay.
they'll be notified of the
Oh,
recipients.
gotcha, okay.
And then they would provide recognition letters, toward those
Sure.
recipients.
So filling out this,
Couple of weeks.
couple of
At
weeks.
least, just by the time we make that connection with the family and have them, basically I send them the form and say, you guys know your operation the best, fill it out best you
Sure.
can. Then I'll go through it and say, okay, this, is there any more we can add or that kind of stuff on there, so.
So June 1? Is that?
Ideally, yes, that would be really good, then we've got lots of time to get that in.
So is that what our motion should be, that Ag Service Board committee members for nominations to administration by June 1st? And what's that process gonna look like, Peter? Everybody can nominate 2 or 3 people, or do we wanna nominate, how many do we wanna nominate?
I think if you find somebody fitting, just nominate and put it
Yeah,
forward, and then
I
we'll
think that
discuss
if
it.
once we have the list, we know who's been on the list in our own area, and then we should just put them out there.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and then I think what we'll do is we'll just have a look at
The list.
the list.
So no vetting, we don't need to vet it by email or anything, we can just send it,
Yeah,
individually send it to Dawn?
yeah, I think because you would probably know most of those folks.
Well, then we can just do a quick video chat, like
Yeah.
do a quick Teams meeting and talk
Yeah,
about
that would
them.
work.
Because
rather
if you're
than
nominating
individual.
them, you're gonna obviously know a little bit of backstory anyway.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can give a little bit of history to the rest of us that maybe don't.
Right.
State the case, basically.
Yeah.
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 and then see if you're a good enough
Okay.
salesman to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Get
that would be the route, so
I
we would
think
just have a
so. I
quick
think that would be
team evening just for that purpose.
Okay. And we can figure out that date later? We don't have to do that right now?
Yeah,
Yeah, we could-
but we would have to have this, so June 30th is the
Deadline.
deadline, so by June 1st, it'd be nice to have.
Shortly after that.
Shortly after June 1st,
Within the
so,
first week of June,
yeah,
have that.
first week of June, have
meeting.
that meeting.
Yeah.
So once we get that information to you, then maybe,
Then I can send out some dates.
Yep.
And you guys can let me know
Okay.
what works for
Does
everybody.
that work?
If it's by teams, it's pretty flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people have commitments during the day
Yeah,
or whatever
sure.
too, so.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that the Ag Service Board send nominations for the 2022 Farm Fair International Farm Family Award to administration by June 1st.
Any more discussion? All in favor? It's carried. All right, now we have the Fortiston Cinnamon Ag Society request. There we go.
So this request, there's a letter received from the Ag Society regarding hoedown. And they would like us to donate the use of the pens and Panels and chutes.
Panels and
Yeah,
chutes,
so
yeah.
basically the corral system.
Yep.
For the weekend of the Hamlet Hoedown, so. It's something we've done in the past, we just basically waive the rental fee,
Yep.
they bring them back clean and we're all happy.
Yeah, I think we can have a motion for that, Devin.
I'll make a motion that the Ag Service Board grant the request of the Fort Assiniboine Ag Society waive their rental fee for the Hamlet Hoedown.
All in favor? Okay, it's passed. Now the containers recycling program.
So with this one, we heard at the provincial conference that they are going to be ending the pesticide collection at municipalities and transferring it over to retailers. So that's basically what this is talking about at the end. Our site will be basically ending at the end of December of this year. That being said, there is potential that, I was talking to the contractor that does shred them, and he mentioned that we might be able to still keep collecting, because for our producers to go to nearest retailer is a ways, right? So it's kind of inconvenient. We've got the site here already, we've put that, like where the site is, there's a clay liner underneath that building, so
Yeah.
it is,
It's
that's
designed
been-
for that.
exactly, so.
I think that's a good idea, because the problem is, and I'm not saying everyone would do this or anyone, but the potential of somebody mishandling those goes up if it's not convenient to get rid of them.
Exactly.
Yep, no, I agree, I think.
It's a nice way to say that, Devin.
Yeah, but it's true though. They'll find a way to hide them, get rid of them. You know, like
Float them down the river,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
that stuff isn't good to
No.
do that with. So I think we should
Yeah.
probably.
So I can investigate further with that, because when I spoke to the fellow that does come and shred them, or, well, they collect them, they don't shred them on site any longer, but they crush them, I guess. So he stated they're gonna be driving right by here anyway, so it's nothing for them. We get maybe 1 sea can a year full, so it's not a huge amount.
I thought someone was
So-
breaking in here a little bit ago. They were stuffing jugs under the fence over there. I'm like, oh geez, somebody's breaking in, pushing jugs under the fence. Okay.
Because they take them to Swan Hills.
No, they take them to a recycling center, I believe, in Edmonton, but I'm not positive. But they would be coming down from Swan Hills
Okay,
with other,
gotcha.
jugs and
'Cause-
stuff, so.
I would imagine that's Clean Farms that's collecting them, so they collect stuff from all over the
Oh,
province, so.
absolutely, yeah.
So if they're
And s-
coming by here, yeah, I
And
think,
they're still going to be, because they're going to be collecting from retailers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I think if we can keep that open, it's a good service for our, and, yeah, I agree. I think we should
the
do that
right
if
thing
we
to
can.
yeah, so I can, investigate further and see how we can do that, if we can do that. I know they passed that resolution, they passed a resolution, must have been previous, to have these closed down, because there are some municipalities that don't have a facility that is designed for it, so.
Well, then if they have a store or wherever they're buying this from, right down the street, it makes no sense
Well, they
Yeah,
have to have a
absolutely.
facility then too,
to handle it.
like it doesn't make any difference,
Yeah,
so.
for us, it's a little unique.
Yeah.
If we do have the facility,
Yep.
we are right in it, so.
And when I talked to the contractor, he said he had spoken to barely any municipalities that wanted to get rid of their site. Everybody wanted to keep them, just because it is convenient for the ratepayers in the areas, and especially in a rural area, like we are a bit more remote,
Yep.
so for
Yep.
us, it's even like people coming from, say, Goose Lake, that's a long drive into Barhead.
Yep.
If they can drop them off here, at least it's part way.
So do you want a motion directing you to discuss with Clean Farms the potential to continue the service at the landfill site?
Yeah, sure,
Okay,
that would be lovely.
is that good? Did you catch that?
Jen's a pro.
Any more discussion on that motion?
Not on the motion, but I have,
Okay.
like, the silage slash twine.
Yeah.
What do we have in our area for that?
We don't yet, but there is a pilot program that I just got an email about like a day ago with regard to that. So they're looking at starting a program. We had been part of a program with County of Barrhead, County of Westlock, and near Alta. And I think there's a couple other groups involved too. But near Alta was going to be collecting all of those bags and twine, or well, it's mostly silage bags, and baling them. But they are no longer part of that project. So the project is kind of going through a revamp right now, and they are looking at getting something going for that because exactly there's a lot of silage and twine out and about. So
Well,
the silage bags.
there's a problem. It has to be separated because the stretchy bags, like for the bale, they haven't really figured out yet how to deal with that. But the big silage bags,
Grain bags?
the grain ones, they actually have a baler that they've made so that you can actually bale it up, and then they will come and get it, I believe. And then there's the twine, which is a different animal. Like they all have to be separated. And so there's an education process for the farmers as well. Right now, they don't have a stretchy program, but I refuse to take my stretchy stuff to the dump. So what I did was I converted an old soft core baler into a baler, and I'm putting a net wrap roll on it so that I can contain it, put it in the shed, because Clean Farms told me that they will have something for that in the future. And I mean, I might have 5 bales by that time, or 4 made, but an old baler converted, and it works like a charm. So, and I don't know what their rules are for the bags, but I know they have a baler for that.
Kind of sounds like Lac St. Anne. They said they would come around and pick it up. Like if you had it separated, like, cause grain bags go in one.
Yeah.
Then the silage wrap goes in another.
Yeah.
And twine goes in the third one.
Yeah.
So I know in our area, like, there's probably us in Whitecourt that uses silage and twine. Well, there'd be a lot of horse people too, right? But not to the same degree. But ours just sadly goes to the landfill because there's no other place to put it. So,
Yeah.
like, we were talking, like, do we start putting it in totes? Like, if there's gonna be something down the road, in 6 months or a year, I'd rather put it all in there. And
I think you hit on a point. I think Lac St. Anne and like there's, from what I understood when I was talking with the guy at the convention, was that they have these balers available that they can put into a central location so that people can bring their stuff there. So, and I don't know anything about that, but he said that was there. So if Lac St. Anne is doing that, maybe they have that in the works.
well, they kind of put out that they would come around and pick up your stuff at your house, and so I'm getting, Mom, how come we're not part of that? And I said, well, I will find out,
Okay,
because it's
yeah,
kind of heartbreaking to just know what's going to the dump. Like,
Well, I went up to the transfer station, the bin is over half full from one person putting silage plastic in there. So,
And it-
not that they're doing anything wrong, what else do you do with it? It's better than,
better than
Burying
a
it.
blow in the wind.
like, yeah,
yes,
exactly.
but you're right about baling it, because it seems like a big mass, but then when you put it in a garbage bag and you actually it's all air, right? So it would
Well,
bale really well.
and I think Clean Farms is working on trying to figure out how because it's transportation. They want it. It's just getting it there because it's so bulky.
Yep.
And I know those bales that I'm baling, I have one there that's probably, I don't know, I would say 1,000 pounds or better, because those balers just crunch it up.
Yeah.
It's got a few pieces of wood from me poking it into the baler that is in it that I may have to remove. I gotta perfect the process. So,
Doesn't have any
Nothing
fingers
great
in
ever
there.
came
So
easy.
just
No,
keep collecting
it took a
then,
scoop
you
shovel
or
though.
put it in a tote, or
That's definitely something
is
to
that
look into.
premature on my
Yeah, it's not patented yet.
If I can just read quickly the email that I did get. So the Alberta Recycling Pilot for the grain bags and baler twine has been extended to August 2023. So they
Okay,
initially
so
had ended the program April 2020. They've extended it now for over a year and a half with the intention of expanding the program to more areas because it's been concentrated more in, Lethbridge was one of the sites. But, so they're looking at expanding the program across to other areas of the province that haven't been serviced yet. So, it's a positive at this point. And again, when I'm talking to Clean Farms, maybe I can ask them about that too. When I'm talking to them about the pesticide containers.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, maybe what we should do is that we should, not right away, but maybe this winter we should have an open house on that. Where we invite the producers and Clean Farms to say, okay, these are some of the things we can do, what are you looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's something that we could entertain because it's a big problem.
Would it be worth contacting Lac St. Anne to see like how they're doing it or what
Yeah.
they're doing or
Yep.
like what it's costing
Yep.
or
Yeah, that's a good point.
possibly partnering with them or
Well, and then also see where we're sitting at the other partnership with County of Barnett and West Lothian. I kind of think maybe Lac St. Anne might have been involved in that too.
And they just went
so we could already be
They
in it.
may have. once
because
that
Near
kind of
Alpha
fell
backed
through.
out of being the service provider, right?
Yes, yes.
What about Nearlandia Co-op? Because I don't know if they're just taking their own or if I know they were taking some.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their
Maybe that's the
participation level would
conversation we
be.
should have with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do some snooping and see what I can find.
Okay,
Still a motion, I think, right?
Yeah, it was-
okay, all in favor? It's carried. The amending the Greenhouse Pollution Act. That one I didn't actually read anything on.
That's
so
because I just got it this morning.
Okay, I
That's
don't,
why.
okay. Thank you for that.
That's just a letter of support of the proposed federal legislation.
Okay.
Oh, no, not that one, sorry, that wasn't the one.
No, Saddle Hills was the one that you got,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that is true. Yeah, so that was another letter of support with, that we've already sent.
That's all I got.
Oh, you got a cloud bubble, thought bubble. That's interesting. Does that mean it's thinking about it?
I must
or-
be thinking about it.
But basically we've sent a message, or we've sent a letter previous to support this.
Oh, already
Same.
have.
Yep.
Bill C-234.
Yeah, and that was the natural gas and propane, and there was also
Yeah.
a resolution in the, provincial conference from that too.
Okay. Okay, can we have a motion then to accept that letter as,
I'll make that motion.
Al?
Ag Service Boards accept the M. Davis Spirit River number 133 letter as information.
All in favor? It's carried. Okay, then this is the Saddle Hills letter.
That was the one that we
That was
just
the one that
received
you
this
just
morning.
got, okay. Ooh.
So I guess the letter just basically expresses their concern about the intake of veterinarians into the veterinary schools and the stringent qualifications that are required to get in, and how that's kind of leading to
Less and less bets.
less vets and the shortage that we were facing at this point. So they're wanting to, how did they word it, open up the conversation, open up the discussion within agriculture service boards across the province on how to solve this issue, so I'm not sure that we can influence the veterinary schools to that degree. Like maybe this is something that needs to go forward as a resolution to the next conference. And that way it'll have a little more oomph, as some more of a statement.
Cause I know we've had that discussion at the provincial level that we can't get big animal veterinarians.
Yeah.
It's the small ones.
That was at last RMA.
Yeah,
It was a resolution that went forward there.
Okay.
Was
Kind of in process already.
yeah, it's, it is in the works, so I think,
that did go forward. That resolution passed
Yes, it
at the
did.
last RMA.
yeah, it did.
So I think this is kind of a duplicate, but I think the resolution that passed at RMA probably holds a little more weight behind it. I would think, maybe not, but
Well, and I think
it doesn't hurt to.
we can
bring this
support this at the Ag Service Board level as well.
And we're just accepting this as
Yep.
information.
Yes.
This time.
It's time. All right, so we need a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Linda?
Accept this information.
All in favor? None opposed? It's carried. All right, now the information package. As circulated. There was a lot of pages in that one, I think.
Must be mine still loading.
I remember,
I did a lot
I
of pages.
remember going through it.
Letters and such.
There's a lot of
There's a lot
pages
of
and a
letters
lot of
there.
this.
Yes.
That was good. Here we go.
The one that was very kind was the Red Deer County recognition of the
Yeah.
planning of the conference. I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a really good job of that. So the next service port one, it goes north, right? It would be in Grand Prairie.
I think they're staying in it.
Oh, they are going to stay in Edmonton, they're gonna keep
I
that,
can't remember what the area
Okay.
said that they were gonna do.
okay. I had a conversation with one of the people up there. And, I thought maybe it was gonna go to Grand Prairie. Which would be a little bit weird, cause they usually have it in Edmonton or,
Well, it
Red
depends
Deer.
on which region is hosting it. We've
Okay.
gone to Grand Prairie before.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Northeast, northwest, and central quite often go to Edmonton. The south likes to have it down more
Cause
Calgary
I know
area.
that, Dave, Kush and I were sitting with a group that was going to be part of organizing that, and they were from the north. So,
Yeah, and
Okay.
I can't remember what the location was.
So is there any discussion or anything on that information? So we'll just, can we just accept that as circulated?
Yeah, I can make a motion.
Yeah.
The Ag Service Board accepts the March 8th, 2022 information package as circulated.
Okay, now is there any discussion? No? All in favor? Thank you. Reports.
What do
You
you
have the Ag Service Manager's report.
I've been up to lots of stuff. That's all you need to know. Goodbye.
Yeah,
No.
doing good work here.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So when I wrote this, it was kind of a nice day, and I was like, "Spring's finally here."
It just
And
snowed
then
I
it's
love it.
pretty much the
snowing.
entire time we were here.
I know, isn't that awesome? We were at the farm on the weekend. We were getting the cultivator ready to go, and our harrow packers, and it was windy as heck and snowing, and I'm like, this sucks. So that was not a good day, but we're okay. So very quickly, we went to the Alberta Invasive Species Council AGM conference. And I was also a presenter, so I did a presentation on wild boar. Very similar, I might change it up a little bit, ease off the bounty program a bit. On my next presentation at the Squeal and Pigs Forum tomorrow night, so I did print you off an agenda, as well as if you want to register, you just have to scan the QR code and it'll take you right to your registration if you wanted to take part in that. So that's tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'll be doing a presentation on that. what else? Strategic planning with council. That was really a really great experience, actually getting to interact with our new council members and hearing what the ideas were for what we are going forward. It was really cool. So that was good. Mountain Pine Beetle, our guy has started. We went to council with that to award the contract. So he started and should be done surveying by May 15th-ish. Might be a little bit later because we were waiting on provincial government funding, so that's why we were so late at the table with that. But he's pretty confident that he can cover a fairly wide area quickly. So, and then I'll be just doing the control. And from some of the surveying that the provincial government has done and in other areas, they're seeing a very huge decrease in the amount of mountain pine beetle hit trees. So we're expecting to have a lot less control required. So we should be in budget or under budget quite a bit, actually. So we'll see how we're going with that, but we won't be over budget. I'm fairly confident in that.
I have to sneak out of here.
And fine, my report's really good.
There's nothing. We just got a call and there's like nobody coming.
Oh.
Sorry.
See you, Devin.
Yeah, see you guys.
So our contract beaver trapper will start on May 15th, and until then we work with the local trappers to find solutions to people's problems. So we will be doing some of that soon, although May 15th is coming up very quickly. So
Yes, very quickly.
as I mentioned, the Squeal on Pigs webinar tomorrow night. We've been doing some training. We've got a new safety software, so there's been a little bit of we're going to catch up on some training online training, which is good. We don't have to pay for it, so it doesn't hit our budget except for wages, so that's good. I'm still meeting with Bert and Carol every 2 weeks with regard to the egg profile project, so just keeping things on track there, and we've got some good content going forward and such. So
Just want to add, while you're talking about that, I did get a hold of the 4-H folk in Anselmo and Whitecourt and passed on the link to the website for the naming,
okay, cool.
and so yeah, that's done.
I hope we get some really good names, and it's really hard to decide.
Yeah,
That'll be cool.
me too.
Yeah.
Kids are creative.
Yes.
Yep.
Very much. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we get for that. Our seasonal staff starts next Monday, so we've got Sherry, who's been with us for many years now, 6 or 7 years she's been with us. So it's nice to have that person coming back with the experience. And then we have a young gentleman from Whitecourt will be joining our team, and his name is Jacob Charco.
So he's going to be working out of this office?
Well, he bases out of Whitecourt,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, like typically a lot of our work in the summertime is over in Whitecourt anyway with those two, because they work as a team to do a lot of the weed spraying and the weed spraying in our subdivisions where we can't take the truck in, and then they also do a lot of the weed inspecting too.
Sure.
So
He's, I know that young man. He has been playing junior hockey for the last 2 years up in northern Manitoba.
yeah.
And can't even say the name. It's Weiwei Casipo or something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's on a reservation, and
Yeah.
he's a good dude.
Oh, good. Well, and as I spoke to him because we did a phone interview because he was away playing hockey at the time.
Sure.
So yeah, he seemed like we did a video interview, and he seemed like a really keen person, and he's got experience spraying, so that's really
Oh,
good
yeah.
too.
Nice.
So yeah, I think he'll be a really great bonus to our team this year. So and they'll be with us until the end of August at least. So, and then we'll have some training for them to do too in the first little while. So we're going to continue using our Munisite Ag Mobile program. So we're going to need some training on that again. So because Sherry hasn't used it for 6 months and Jacob's never used it, so we'll be doing a little training on that. The wild boar bounty, I've been getting several phone calls and emails from people. So as I mentioned, I've explained why we can't be a part of that. I've also been in contact with Alberta Transportation regarding weed control along the highways. So we've got a plan going forward. I've told them where some of our hot spots are on the highways in our county, and as we go into the season more, I've got a direct contact so I can call him and say, hey, we've got a problem, and they can address it. So yeah, so that was a really positive thing when he reached out. So, and he actually reached out to me, so that was good. So I'll be working on the Ag Service Board grant reporting, which has to be done by the end of June. I got a lot of stuff happening at the end of June. Now I just noticed. So the Ag Service Board grant, the Mountain Pine Beetle grant reporting, all those have to be done by the end of June, as well as our farm family. So it's gonna be a busy month. And what else? No spray agreements. We've had one new one so far, and they have to. The deadline to the agreement is May 31st for sign up for this year if they want to participate. So, what else? Our rental equipment is ready to go. We'll be probably releasing our ground penetrating equipment this weekend. I think a lot of I don't know. I wanted to say a lot of the thaw is happened, but
I've been pushing posts in with my tractor.
yeah,
Just along the bush lines, it's not
too
yet.
bad. Okay, that's always been my concern. Like along the bush lines where it's sheltered, it doesn't tend to thaw as quickly.
No.
So yeah, we don't want to wreck our equipment because it's not brand new. So we have to be gentle and treat it with kid gloves. And we're planning our pond day for the Fort Assiniboine School for May 24th, and we'll be out in the Schumann Lake area.
Oh, nice.
So we've got 4 or 5 stations ready to go with that. So looking at aquatic invertebrates. We're hoping to get somebody to come with fur-bearing animal. Like we've had people from Fish and Wildlife come out before and have like skins, hides coming out and talk about them. And soil analysis to some degree on a grade 6 level. And water quality, as well as I think wetland or watersheds. That was the other one that we were looking at. So it should be a good day for the kids. I've been working really closely with one of the teachers here at the school to kind of coordinate this. So be interesting. We'll be providing them with lunch. It's not a fancy lunch. It's tube steaks and granola bars. So.
Oh, I'm sure they'll like hot dogs.
Oh,
Yeah, pond day special.
Yeah, there's some of those little guys that they could eat. Like,
How are you cooking them?
We just take the barbecue out from the
Sure.
county. Yeah, we used to get that trailer barbecue from Seacan, but it's not accessible anymore. So we just have a little barbecue here, and for the amount of tube steaks we need to throw on, it's really not
Sure.
that bad. So, yeah. Again, we're going to be continuing promoting the rural beautification and the Tall Buttercup and Oxeye Daisy programs throughout the summer. And then I'm going to be away in mid-July for a week to teach a course at Olds College on my own time, but it kind of contributes to my job, so that's kind of cool.
What are you teaching?
That's all. Field school.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Weed identification, insect identification are our 2 priorities, and then we also do cropping systems. So it's kind of a review. It's an ag certificate program through Olds College, and so they take online courses over the course of a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
And then the field school is kind of like a culmination of all of that. So we review all of the stuff that they did take already, and then we go out and take them out into the field, and we do surveys and different kinds of analysis out in the field. So
Good for you.
yeah, it's fun. It's a nice day. Well, if it's a nice week, it's really fun. If it's less than stellar, which it has been in the past, it's not as great, but
So, I'm sure you guys captured that we wanted to have those farm families, that list of farm family nomination. Do we need a motion to that, or are you guys, that'll get sent out in the next week or so?
no, I'll send it out today.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll send it out today.
I'll get it
I have
for
to
you.
leave in half an hour, but
Yeah, I'll get it for you.
I'll try to
Okay,
get it,
awesome,
yeah,
thanks.
we'll get it out. And that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Dawn? Okay, so can we have a motion to accept her report? Faye makes that motion.
Peter stared down face, so.
All alone over
All in
here.
favor? There's just one little thing that I would like to add.
Sorry, Peter, I just need to ask a point of order. We still have quorum, right?
Yep,
Is it 4?
4.
Okay, sorry.
Is everyone in favor of that motion, first of all?
Yep.
Thank you. Just one thing that I would like to add before we adjourn, and that is that I've been reading Canada Food Policy, and it's called Resetting the Table. It's a federal government initiative, and I think it serves a purpose for us to, maybe at the next meeting, like if that was to be put in the agenda package, or if we could start to read that, it links into the ag profile thing that we're doing, and some of the questions that we're getting, like for example, Braden talking about the Wagyu and not being able to get, his product into the marketplace. This whole thing has been something that I think the federal government's been wrestling with for a number of years, and it's something that we as a municipality probably could, have some influence on in the future. So I'm just thinking that if we could get, I'll send you the links and the information so that we could have that in our next package, and leave a big place for discussion there. Because I think it'll be, if we have the whole group here, there'll be a lot of input from everybody to, and I like the dynamic that we have here right now, because we have people who have some experience. We have you who is really connected in the retail sector, so you'll understand some of those things.
Is it a lengthy document?
It's quite a read, but the executive summary and the way that it's set out will really set the stage for it. So, other than that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Linda?
And we don't have to vote on that. We're adjourned.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Peter, you had to take off